Well, no, we haven't even got there. I'm just trying to find out if you see people engaging in self-harm or potential self-harm, if you have an obligation to step in and say something. Live streaming like I am, I don't think it's a very smart move, like from an operational security standpoint, if that's what if you're concerned about doxing and harassing, to, you know, be live streaming as you walk around the city that you fled to avoid doxing and harassing.
Okay, because in my opinion, if you repeatedly give people advice and they aren't there for it, you can turn trolling. And that's a really good point from Potato Band plugged in my chat. I'm sorry.
So,
if you keep bringing
okay, hang on. So you're saying the repeated giving of advice is concern trolling? So if your mom gives you the same advice every year that you should be looking to lose weight so it doesn't put pressure on your heart, do you think that's concern trolling?
Haphazardly. Welcome back.
You would, wouldn't you, do it haphazardly?
I would.
Yeah.
You know, all filled with hypocrisy, right, Cece?
Oh, fucking rights here, bud.
Hey there,
Okay.
Caesar, how's it going?
Oh, what's going on there? It's BeWyrd, right?
Yeah, BeWyrd.
Okay, BeWyrd.
BeWyrd.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's how we used to spell it, yeah.
Okay, so before we begin, I figured I need to do a coin flip. I won't be streaming, so let me shout out one of your guys' streams.
Heads.
Whoever. Okay, CC won. Let's see. It is heads. All right, CC gets the shout out. So okay. This debate, it has been. I'll give a little bit of context, and I'll let you two get into it. We first saw the instance of CC and BeWyrd fighting on Twitter over Keffals.
True, based.
And then both Ice Beans and I talked about it, and we wanted to get a debate happening over this topic. And then, of course, Heem tried to steal it, but then we fought him off valiantly.
The best
Also based.
And now we're here, and I think just to kind of agree, because I know you two talked a little bit about what the debate's going to be about, but it seems like it's centered around talking about whether it's acceptable, the behavior should Keffals be more concerned with doxing, and or should she maintain what her normal behavior should be? Would you both agree to those terms?
I don't think that's quite the topic.
Is
I
there
think you
anything else within that?
I worded it pretty specifically. It was like, how okay is it, right? Like that creates that scale of not okay at all to completely okay. How okay is it that Keffals is IRL streaming after, you know, what I called swatting and doxing? And I think Crit, you're like kind of okay with that.
Well, I'm okay with like.
This is your chance to push back.
I'm okay with the fact that she's like live streaming like I am. I don't think it's a very smart move, like from an operational security standpoint, if that's what if you're concerned about doxing and harassing, to, you know, be live streaming as you walk around the city that you fled to avoid doxing and harassing.
So yes, that does sound like the topic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I think
statement.
there were a few things that were also discussed in the thread, and if we might divert a little bit off of that, but I want to make sure that we stay on topic. If we want to change the topic, the person changing the topic will have to justify why we should change the topic to both of us. Does that sound fair?
Sure.
Okay. With that, I guess we'll do opening statements.
Maybe finish
with
your thought, CC?
See, well, since CC gets the shout out, you get to go first. BeWyrd.
Oh, okay, sure. So I guess I would say that when there are bad actors in the world, people who do bad, wrong things, we should not place the onus of security on the victims. We should generally place the onus on our security apparatus, like the police. And a clear example that may be true in this case is that the London Police Services recently updated their policies concerning trans folk and also around swatting. So I think that's like a clear indication that we shouldn't be putting a huge amount of responsibility on Keffals to have really good security, just so that she can live her best life. That onus falls on police. Toronto did it good, London did it poor, and now London has fixed their policies, hopefully, and hopefully it's better. That's my opening argument.
All right. So off the bat, harassment is bad. Kiwi Farms is bad. Victimizing people is bad. However, one has the moral obligation to give advice to people that are engaging in what they believe to be self-harm. This can only be done through telling people that the action they are engaging in is unsafe and that there are actions that they can take to avoid current and future harm. This does not mean that an individual must listen to the advice being given. However, sufficient reason ought to be given when refusing to accept advice given, for which we can discuss the limitations and costs of those options in this discussion. I want to give a few things that I would do in a situation like Keffals, and I hope to hear the steps and ideas that BeWyrd would have to avoid the continuous doxing, swatting, and harassing. Yeah, we can go from there. That's kind of my opening statement. So,
All right. I will let you two have a back and forth, and if I see us diverting too much, or any reason I need to jump in, if it turns into a screaming match, which I don't think you two will do. I think you two have enough reasonable ability to have a conversation that it won't turn into.
yeah, I think my first question for BeWyrd is like, if somebody is continually having their house broken into, do you think it's fair to tell that person maybe they should look at getting a lock set for their door?
You're muted, BeWyrd. You are muted, BeWyrd.
Yeah, I'm muted. There's a couple of assumptions built into that. But let's just start with a more simpler premise. Like, let's start with where we agree, rather than like a question where it's like, yeah, sure, probably should lock your door, but then the big question would be, why would that person be getting robbed over and over again? And then you're asking questions about context and information and stories and all this stuff.
Well, those are like, just hang on. Those are two separate premises, right? We can talk about what a person can do to protect themselves, and then we can also discuss like why they're being attacked, right? Those are two.
Exactly.
Yeah. So my question is like, if you have a person that is like, hey, my house is consistently being broken into, and you're like, oh, do you lock your doors at night? And they're like, no, I don't actually have any locks on my door. Would it be okay to tell that person to like go purchase a lock set for their door to at least put like that level of security? Okay.
Wait. That part right there, though. That's the part I actually stuck on your opening arguments. Like,
Okay.
Who has any right to tell anyone else? Like, where are you, some rando, getting your moral authority to say to your neighbor on the street, well, golly gee, you sure should stop getting robbed because of your unlocked door? It's like,
Well,
normally
no.
victims are not in control of that situation.
Well, it's because I don't expect a person to be able to think of every idea that they need to protect themselves. So I think as like a society, we try to work together to think of ways to avoid certain harms in society, right?
We don't necessarily work together. We farm it out to police.
Well,
We have
so you
allowed
like
police to monopolize violence in order to deal with criminal behavior, which is why the neighbor calls, and you might be referring to, let's say, like community support, or like a looser definition, right? Maybe here.
well,
Maybe
I
that's where
just
we're not disconnecting.
so like so what you're saying is if somebody's house is consistently like every night getting broken into, instead of buying a
Police that are
lock set.
messing up. There's a serial
no, hang
robber
on.
in the neighborhood.
Well, there is, right? But if they like striking at different times, right, and a lock would prevent either the person from getting in or stall the person long enough for the police. Hang on, or stall the person long enough for the police to get there and apprehend them. Why wouldn't you say to that person, hey, you should put that lock set on your door? What is wrong? Like, what's wrong with that advice?
Yeah, because it's victim blaming. It's
How?
essentially saying, you're saying the responsibility for you getting harmed is on you. And the problem with that argument is that criminals necessarily are trying to get around all of your defenses. Now, they often pick soft targets, but is it really someone's fault for being a soft target? Or is it the fault of the criminal for doing a bad thing?
Okay.
They should stop criminal.
How do you give
That's kinda
advice?
where we're disconnecting.
How do you give advice to somebody to
Don't give
avoid?
advice.
Hang on. So you shouldn't give advice if you see somebody committing like self-harm or something like that at all. You should never give advice.
If you have not been sought out for your advice, that person may not be ready to accept your opinion and may not really understand where you're coming from. It might lead to disconnect, even if it's the right information or true or good. A lot of times people learn, develop, get better operation security by changing their beliefs about their behavior. And oftentimes, operation security is an emotional thing, or your relationship with your boss, for instance, at your job can affect how good your OPSEC is. So I would just say that trying to insert yourself into a conversation, say, hey, you should be doing this. Anytime you catch yourself saying you should, probably a bad start to the probably a bad thing
How
to
do
be
you,
saying.
how do you give anybody prescriptions for what they should do in life?
I prefer not to. I don't like to
So you don't give any advice on your stream about anything regarding like anything at all.
Listen, I will speak from my perspective. If people ask me a question, sure, I will monologue. I will talk about a bunch of stuff. If someone asks me a question, I'll try to give my best answer from my perspective, what I've experienced. Prescriptions are dangerous because you got to have so much expertise, and then you have to apply that expertise to their specific situation. So it's really difficult to give out advice ad hoc unless you're Will playing as Hey Donna and you're insanely good at it.
Okay, let's say you're watching one of your coworkers, okay?
Yeah.
And they're going to get up on a ladder, and that ladder is super unsafe, okay? And and you've seen in the past that people get on ladders like that have fallen over and broken their neck. Do you think you have a moral obligation to tell that person not to get on that ladder and instead instruct them how to properly put up that ladder, even if they don't ask for it?
I think you'd actually have a legal obligation if you're either.
Well, let's just talk moral. Just leave laws out of it. Let's just talk moral. Do you think you have a moral obligation to tell that person not to get on the ladder and give them advice on?
Let's be clear here. You started off with coworker, so I'm in a strong agree. But now let's move that a bit further away. Stranger.
Let's say
stranger.
Let's say it's a stranger.
Stranger, then. We're not talking a ladder anymore. We're talking ideas.
No, but let's keep the same. Let's keep the same thing. You're walking down the street. You see a stranger you've never talked to before about to get on a ladder that you believe will fall over and they will break their neck because you've seen it before. Do you think you have a moral obligation to go tell that person not to get on that ladder?
As a Canadian, I feel like...
No, just as a person. Not as a Canadian, just as a person.
I'm speaking from where my values come from.
Okay.
As a person who identifies as a Canadian, unfortunately, I know it's odd to take on that identity, but here I am. I do think it is good and just to help others if you think they might get harmed.
Okay.
Now,
do you think we ought to, though?
Let me finish. With their consent. With their consent. You run over and you start grabbing at it. I'm helping you.
No.
At the top of the ladder doesn't know who you are.
But you're changing my hypothetical. I'm not telling you have to go over and grab anything. I'm telling you see that person about to get on. Do you have the moral obligation to say something to them that they shouldn't get on that ladder and that there's a better way to secure that ladder to step on it so they won't get hurt? Do you think you have a moral obligation?
Yeah, if you want to be really technical about it, I'd probably say no, because if you did have a moral obligation, let me finish. Only because it's such a high bar. So if you walked past it, that meant you're a bad person. You've committed a moral crime, essentially, right? But what you've left in the middle ground is actually how true it is this person's in a dangerous situation. You might be assessing from afar with your expertise, but it may not be true. As you get closer and closer and closer, your moral duty escalates, right? Because you're interested, you're showing you're going to help, and as soon as that person and you make a connection and you acquire consent, you do have a moral duty. But until you've actually started talking with that person and made that relationship actually real, you're just a stranger on the street. And we'll get into a sticky situation where someone gets harmed and a stranger who walked by who barely noticed is now in trouble. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I honestly, I don't believe you. I don't think you actually think this. I 100%. I think this is something to actually just like avoid like the line of logic or the line of questioning. I don't think anybody operates like this.
An exceptionally detailed.
No, I don't believe you would do this though. I don't think you would see a person. Hang on. I don't think you would see a person looking to like step on a really sketchy ladder that's going to fall over and really harm them. I don't think you would sit there and do like this super moral, like, oh well, they didn't consent. Well, they didn't engage with me. No, you would go over and tell that person like, hey, maybe you should secure that ladder. I know 100% of the time you would, because I don't think you want to see that person get hurt. Right?
Okay, CC. I don't know if you're trying to misunderstand me.
No, I'm not.
I'm not taking a position. I'm describing several.
Okay, well, I'm asking you to take a position. Ought you go tell that person that ladder is unsafe?
Very simply, yes.
Okay, thank you. That was what I was waiting to do.
However, there are gradations. Like the world is not black and white, is what I'm trying to get across to you. And so the reason I'm arguing with you over the stranger versus acquiring consent is because you're taking this analogy of physical space, a ladder, and we're going to now abstract that to the internet. But
Well, no,
that
we haven't even got there.
creates
I'm just trying to find out if you see people engaging in self-harm or potential self-harm, if you have an obligation to step in and say something. That's what I'm
Okay.
trying to figure out.
Okay, we
That's
started
what- that's
off with
my
risky
starting point.
behavior, and now we're doing self-harm. Why are we talking about self-harm? I would very much prefer not to talk about self-harm.
It can be kind of sometimes one in the same coin, right? Stepping on a ladder that's unsafe, that's going to tip over, is both risky and could potentially lead to self-harm.
Okay,
Right, because
so
you're inflicting that harm on yourself because you didn't
Sorry,
take the
sorry,
proper
sorry,
steps to
sorry.
secure the ladder.
The words, to me, self-harm indicate intentionally, not accidentally.
No, sometimes self-harm is like intentional or it's like compulsive.
Could we make that clarification though? Is that okay with you if we just created that clarification that the word self-harm indicate they're doing it on purpose versus risky behavior that may lead to harm? Like that seems like a fair distinction to make.
I think they're
Set
one
up
and
a
the same coin. I
conversation.
don't think they're as separate as you're making them out, but sure.
You don't think intention matters when it comes to
Well, I
harm?
think self-harm
That's
can
kind
be
of odd.
either intentional or unintentional, right?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
But that's
I'm
what I
not
said, and
saying
you
we would do
disagreed
that.
with me. You said you wanted to correct it.
No, I'm saying let's use some terms to help us keep that distinction clear. Let's say, hey, if this term means this and that term means that, then we can move on, using those terms because we both understand self-harm means intentional and risky behavior means not intentional. That's all I'm suggesting.
Wait, risky behavior could be intentional. What do you mean?
Risky behavior in terms of self-harm.
Wait,
Risky behavior-
skydiving is risky
Drinking-
behavior, but that can be intentional, right?
Okay, but drinking some booze late at night is not intentionally self-harming. It's risky
Uh,
behavior, but I'm not
it-
intentionally trying to harm myself.
It can be if you're seeking to get like super blackout drunk. That absolutely can be
Okay.
intentional.
Sure, if you want to stick to the margins, but I'm talking in rules just so we can clarify some definitions to move forward with the conversation.
That's not the margin. Smoking like copious amounts of weed every day is like a form of self-harm, right? That is
Oh
intentional.
my god.
Okay, really quick.
Okay,
I-
help us
I'll-
out here, San, because I'm confused with
I
this.
think-
This is very semantics.
So
Let's get to
when
an argument.
BeWyrd hears you say self-harm, he has
Mhm.
a very specific idea of what he is thinking in his head, and you do not have that specific thinking. So BeWyrd is trying to clarify what you mean when you say self-harm, and he's suggesting that maybe using terminology that you can both agree on will be easier for the conversation.
Oh, okay. I
Is
think it could be the actions that like lead to some self-inflicted like damage, right? Whether intentional or non-intentional. Like your actions are going to cause you harm, whether it's intentional or not, right? It's self-harm. It's not
This
like
is
it's not.
extremely abstract. We're getting so abstract. I'm lost in the
it's-
weeds. I could
it's-
slip on
okay.
ice and because I walked out on a snowy day.
Yeah, because
I
you
might
didn't
have
salt your
intended
sidewalk.
self-
Yeah, that's like that would be like a weird form of self-harm. Yes.
But then
That's still
all
self-harm though, because
accidents-
you didn't take
all
steps to like
accidents are self-harm.
not all accidents, right? If somebody runs
Well,
you
by
over
your
with a car, that's
definition-
not self-harm, right? Somebody else inflicted that harm on you.
Oh, but you could have done X, Y, or Z to improve your security. Why didn't you?
Yeah, you
actually
probably could have.
see-
There's still issue like
Do you not see the moving goalpost in your
No.
argument? You're
No, I don't.
saying like the onus to improve your security is on the person getting harmed, and when I have an accident, even if it's slipping on ice, I am somehow intentionally doing it to myself.
when
Like,
you
I'm really
use self-harm,
confused.
do you mean like self-harm isn't like you're hurting yourself on purpose?
That's exactly what I said.
Okay.
That is quite
Okay, I'm
literally
just
the
double
definition
checking.
I offered.
I would argue that's a little bit different, but I understand the context you're
You
using it
might
in.
have a,
yes.
yeah. This is gonna happen, right? We might have different keywords in our brain,
Mhm.
whatever. So let's try to get back to the ladder example.
Okay.
Because it was a nice clear thing. Let's say we both have, and it's a clear example. Let's take a nice clear. The person walking by does see the person,
Mm-hmm.
does recognize they're gonna get hurt, does have the expertise. Okay. Sure. All right. Maybe they have some moral obligation to go help that person. That doesn't seem like a crazy assessment. Where do you want to go from there?
Okay, so you would go tell the person on the ladder that hey, you're doing something unsafe.
Hey, can I help you? And the person says, yeah, please. And then you hold the bottom of the ladder, right? And the person says, oh, thanks. I really needed your help.
Well, hang on.
So where
do
do
you
you go from there?
if you're
both
talking
agree.
about consent, like you just going and touching the ladder is like way above what my example even is, right? We haven't even got to like what action
know.
you could take to help the person. We're just talking about like speaking out, right?
Well,
The
suggested
action of
most
actually helping the
obvious-
person, like of physically
The
helping the person
application
might be
of
different.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, do you wanna stop
Yeah,
there
actually,
and-
no, I actually do. I'm actually kind of curious why consent for advice is so important to you.
Just because it helps distinguish between strangers and people engaging in this scenario, right? Because in the real world, it's not person A and person B all alone in their own vacuum. It's a city, and there's a lot of people milling around, and maybe only one person sees it, sort of, kinda. And you were using really strong language, like high bar shit, like moral duty, and it's like, come on, man. Some people are walking by, and all sorts of risky behaviors happening, and they just not that aware of it or partially aware of it or see like people
Yeah, and I
walk
think if
by
you
and
see it, and I think if you see it at that point, and you know better, and you know that's a risky behavior, I think you ought to speak out. I think you have the moral
Okay, so
obligation
every
to speak
person-
out.
every person that has walked past a homeless person on the city that is sleeping outside has a moral duty to help that individual. That is the bar you're
To the best of their ability. Yeah, of course.
But do you understand that most people don't behave that way?
Yeah, and I agree. And
that
most
you're-
people are pretty shitty.
So you've set a moral bar that is not in relationship to the real world. Is
No,
it a
because no,
reasonable moral
I
bar
set a
you
moral bar that I expect people to be better than they are right now.
Generally, in our society, our moral responsibilities are spread across the society itself. Liberalism, we help our homeless situation with large-scale policies because it's systemic issues. So we might be talking about two different things here, right? With the latter example, it's an individual to individual. It's pretty clear, moral responsibility. But maybe with the systemic one, the homeless, maybe I gave a bad example. Yo, thanks for the follow. So maybe that's a problem that's going on right now. It's just that systemic issues, the moral responsibility gets all kind of junky. Let's try to stick to a one-to-one example. Because I'm still stuck on, like, who are you? Who are you to offer your advice? That's the part I get stuck on.
Because I'm a person existing in society, having to exist with people that if they're sucking up police resources because they're constantly getting doxxed and they refuse to take any steps to mitigate that, where it's pulling resources from people that might otherwise need it when somebody else could take the steps to protect themselves, I think you have a duty to speak out, to ensure that like the resources are properly used and are wasted the least amount in society.
Correct, which is why the London Police Services updated their policy, because they are the gateway.
Okay, well, I think
all crime gets addressed.
No, but they're not going to catch all crime. You're going to have a certain level of personal responsibility, right? That's why we take steps to mitigate it, right? That's why we don't allow people to drink and drive. We try to lock our doors, right? Yeah, you always have a level. You always have a level of personal responsibility. Absolutely.
But I'm just saying, who asked? That's all I'm saying to you.
I don't. Who asked you to come in and defend the position that what she's doing is okay or everything's hunky dory?
Why not? She's
well. Why not for me? Why can't I give advice? Tell me why I can't. What's wrong with me trying to give advice to somebody that I see somebody that's doing something wrong that they could otherwise do better?
So the reason that we started engaging in this conversation, the part that really aggravated me, and excuse me for being aggravated.
I don't care.
I do.
Okay.
That's as much for me as it is for you.
Okay.
The reason I took issue was that I thought maybe there was some victim blaming going on. That,
okay. Hang on. Can we stop there? Sorry. What is the difference between victim blaming and giving people advice? Just real quick.
Usually, I feel like the I want to say like the time when someone's recently victimized, they're traumatized. They're not necessarily receptive to outside opinion about how they should be doing X, Y, or Z, right?
Okay. How long after can you start to give advice? What's the window?
Often the victim decides. Almost always, in every situation. I've never heard of anyone ever deciding, other than the victim, when they can start taking advice. This is why it's a hard issue for the medical establishment to try to you got to take people where they are.
Okay, let's go back to the house example where the person doesn't lock their doors, right? And it's been happening night after night. Let's say it happens that night again. It's the morning time, and you come to that person. You say, "Hey, maybe you should put on some locks on your door so that you can avoid this like harm tonight." Do you think that's an appropriate time to tell that person maybe go get a lock set? And maybe recommend a lock set to them?
Well, it depends who you are.
Let's stick with the scenario. When would be the appropriate time? When would be the appropriate time to tell that person to go get a lock set if they're getting victimized every night?
Okay, let's slow down. the part that matters is the relationship you have with the victim.
Yeah, I totally
Do you
disagree.
agree with that?
No,
Why
I totally
do you
disagree.
with that?
Because I don't
When
want to
take
see
advice-
people get harmed when I could give them advice to not get harmed.
Let me ask you, have you ever had someone give you advice that you turned down?
Yeah, but at least I
the
still
reason-
listen. I listen to their advice though. Still,
And if they tried to give you advice again, what did you think of that person?
I still listen to them because I thought that it's not every piece of advice might be situational, right? If you're going to say that like the situation the person is in is going to determine when you give advice, the advice that the person is going to give might be situational and might be something that you've considered afterwards after experiencing something different.
Okay, but let me rephrase just so you understand my
Okay.
question. You heard their advice,
Mm-hmm.
and they're giving it to you again.
Mm-hmm.
What is your opinion of the person who is giving you advice you have already once rejected?
I think that person is trying to like. I think that person cares about me because they're trying to give me a piece of advice that they think would really actually benefit my life. Why else would they give me the same piece of advice?
Now, let's take it another step.
Hang on. What do you?
What if
Hang
I-
on. What? No, stop. What do you think of that person?
I think if someone gave me advice and I told them, hey, thanks for the advice, it doesn't really work because of X, Y, Z, and then a week passes and they come
And the
back
same
they
thing
give me-
happens? No, and the same thing happens
Let
to you
me finish.
again,
You
and they
want-
give you the same piece of advice. What would you think of that person?
You want me to give my opinion, or are you gonna talk with me?
Well, I don't know. I haven't consented
my
for it
opinion.
yet, so. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
You're on a stream, you consented.
I know. I was fucking
L.
memeing.
Big L.
Chill.
Big L. Okay,
Okay,
so
BeWyrd, you're uninterrupted. What's your answer?
oh yeah, whatever. Just keep to one situation at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I was traumatized. I feel like a victim. Somebody comes in and says, "Here is some advice." Okay? If it's a mother, of course I'm listening. If it's a stranger, why do I care? I want to understand if you agree with that or not. If people actually assign value to the advice they get based on how close that person is to them. I just want to see if you understand that.
Okay.
Like if you agree with me on that.
Let's say you take not really. I think if you have a mother and a stranger and they give you the same piece of advice, I think if it's just the personal connection that is like making you decide between those same pieces of advice, I think that's a little strange because they're both good pieces of advice, right? All you're doing is putting like a weird weight on the fact that you know the person, even though if both pieces of advice are the same, right? You should ideally listen to it no matter who it comes from. Because it's still good advice. Good advice is not subjective to the person giving it.
That word "good" is doing so much heavy
Do you think people want to give bad advice to people? Or do you think most people seek to like give good advice on issues that people are having?
Do you think that? Well, let me answer the question instead of responding with the question, just to, further the conversation. I think that everybody's trying to give good advice.
Okay,
But
thank you.
Let me finish. Not all good. Not advice. Everyone's trying to give good advice, but not all advice is good.
I agree. Yes.
Okay. So
But if
when
hang on, but if
advice is not good, it is therefore bad, and
Okay.
therefore people give bad advice.
Okay, if a stranger and your mother give you the same piece of advice, are they equal pieces of advice, or is one better because it's your mom giving it to you?
If I have grown up and I love and trust my mother, her advice is so much more valuable to me. Because I know and trust her. Because
even
I know
if-
where her expertise comes from.
even
Doesn't matter
if-
it's the exact same
Well,
words on the page.
I think
Live,
that's
laugh,
the
love.
issue. I think that's the
Live,
issue. Is
laugh,
you
love
put
for my
you
mother
put
would be
more.
something different.
Yeah, but you put more weight on who's giving you the advice, right?
of
Versus like, yeah, I totally disagree. Good advice is totally
Oh yeah.
removed from who's giving it to you. Okay, if I tell you, hey, you should eat a well, healthy, balanced diet, okay, and then your mom comes to you and says, hey, you should eat a healthy, well balanced diet. Whose advice is better?
The person I trust more.
But they're the
That's such a
same
hard
piece of
thing to
advice.
grasp.
This
No,
is
they're
this is
not.
like no, this
No,
is
they're
like
not.
this is like what's heavier,
not.
a pound of feathers or a pound of bricks? This
Okay,
is
let me-
that
let me-
exact question.
Can I give you? Can I explain why we have a disagreement?
Yeah, for sure.
Advice comes from expertise. It doesn't just
No, but it-
fall
no, no,
out
no, no,
from
no.
the
But it's-
ether. It
it's the-
comes from expertise. It comes
But it's
from
the
a source of
advice. It's the
knowledge and
thing.
wisdom.
It's the thing being said that we're addressing, right? What we're addressing is not who is telling us to eat a well-balanced diet. The thing we're addressing and assessing is the advice of eating a well-balanced diet.
Hey, I want to ask you, what's the difference between giving advice and concern trolling?
I honestly don't know. That's not something I've thought about. I should probably think about it.
Okay, because in my opinion, if you repeatedly give people advice and they aren't there for it, you concern trolling. And that's a really good point from Potato Band Plug in my chat. I'm sorry.
So
if you keep bringing
okay, hang on. So you're saying the repeated giving of
wanna
advice is concern trolling? So if your mom gives you the same advice every year that you should be looking to lose weight so it doesn't put pressure on your heart, you think that's concern trolling? If you keep ignoring that advice?
That can often lead to a frayed trusted relationship.
So your mom comes to you every year and says, I notice you're like 100 pounds overweight. I'm really concerned about your weight. I think it's putting a lot of stress on your internal organs and heart. And you disregard that advice. You would say that your mom is concern trolling. I want to hear you say your mom is concern trolling at that point.
I have a very amazing relationship with my
No,
mother.
I want to hear you say that if your mom was to do that, she would be concern trolling.
Respond?
No, I want you to
Let me respond.
I want you to respond to my question. Would she
In
be
my
concern
way,
trolling?
Not how you want me to respond. Do you understand that?
No, I don't actually. I'm probably autistic, so go ahead.
So, I have a lovely relationship with my mother. I love her. Not all people have such a lovely relationship with their mothers. The same advice repeated might be interpreted differently. If my mother came with me to that advice, my only interpretation would be my mother's getting really concerned for my health. But not all people have such a healthy relationship.
Okay, so it's not just
relationships,
the amount that somebody gives you that advice, and whether the person disregards it. It's based totally off the relationship then.
Yeah.
It's not about how repeatedly the person gives you. No, but it's not repeatedly. Then like everybody that gives advice on the internet is concern trolling because there's no actual relationship there.
If they're repeating it, sorry, Sam.
Muted? I don't think I'm muted. Okay. I want to jump in here and add one thing, and I think that's increasing to the level of communication that's not happening here.
True.
CC, when you say good advice, what good is that enhancing? What part of the advice is being enhanced by good? Is it whether you'll listen to it or the quality of the advice?
It's the quality of the outcome that the person is going to receive, right?
Okay.
Whoa, that's
That's
a bunch
what I
of steps.
thought. Okay.
It's a bunch of steps, though.
What?
So, okay, you go to a chiropractor and
Yeah?
they give you good advice. And you
Yes.
end up with a broken spine. Was that good advice?
What good advice do you think that a chiropractor would give to you, but you would end up with a broken spine?
Chiropractic is a pseudoscience, and
No, but
therefore
what
you
piece of
cannot
what
get
piece of
good
advice do you think that the chiropractor would think is good, but would lead to a broken spine?
Have you not watched any videos of chiropractors doing their thing? They harm people actively. It is a very odd and unusual industry.
He's asking.
But that's not good advice though. If somebody's like, yeah, the good advice is I'm gonna snap your neck, that's not good advice. That's bad advice.
You define.
No, because because I said it would lead to the better outcomes of somebody's life. Making somebody a quadriplegic is not a good outcome for their life. Okay, that's
But
by
they don't
definition
know
not good
that's
advice.
No, but they don't know that this is happening to them. They're being duped. Do you not see that problem?
Yes, but the advice is not good
I understand.
because it
that.
is leading
And
to it. It doesn't contradict what I said. It doesn't.
But here's why I can say it's bad and you cannot. I am
Yeah.
saying very clearly,
Okay.
advice comes from expertise, and expertise comes
Okay.
from.
By definition, then the chiropractor saying that he's going to crack your back is a good advice in your opinion and bad advice in mine because that is an expert of the spine, right? He is claiming himself to
No,
be an
he's
expert.
not,
He
though.
is.
That's
Hang on,
my
but
point.
he is. He
This is
would claim.
pseudoscience.
Hang
He's
on.
not an
It doesn't
expert.
matter. It doesn't matter. He would claim himself that he is an expert of the spine, and the advice that he is giving you is good advice, right? And in your frame view, it would be good advice because he is an expert giving you the best advice based on his opinion. Whereas in mine, when I say no, it's only good advice is when it leads to better outcomes in your life, and him giving you the advice that he's going to snap your spine in half is bad advice because it's leading to a bad outcome in your life.
I feel like I want to tell you a Buddhist koan to
Go ahead.
push this forward. Okay, this might be a bit of a change of pace, but here we go. I'll make it short. Father and son are on a farm, and one day the horse runs away. They need that horse to work the farm, and the son gets sad. And the father says, and he says, "This is terrible." And the father says, "Is that so?" The son goes and gets the horse and brings back a second one. And he says, "This is such a good day." And the father says, "Is that so?" The next day, the young lad is trying to break in the new stallion, and he falls off and he breaks his leg.
I've been waiting for this.
And he says, Dad, this is such a bad day. And his father says, is that so? The next day, the army comes and they say they're looking for young men to join the war. But they can't subscribe the young man because his leg is broken. And the young man says, I am saved. And the old man says, is that so? Do you see my point?
Yeah, the thing is like bad outcomes can lead to good things, but the breaking your leg is still a bad thing, right? Because it could cause other bad things down the road, right? It could be that, yeah, today he didn't go out to war, but tomorrow he gets a staph infection that ends up removing 3/4 of his leg all the way up to his hip, right?
You can run all across the
I'm
world
not,
with...
no, hang on. No, let me finish. You gave me a quote. I let you fucking ramble. Let me talk. The point of that story is you have to assess the situation. Hang on, you have to assess the situations as they come to you, right? As the situations change, as life changes, the outcomes that you're experiencing in life, although they might seem grim on one hand, might have positive outcomes later down the road. However, that doesn't mean that from that positive outcome, other positive outcomes are going to stem. You have to take it day by day and situation by situation. That's the point of that story.
I think that, well, I mean, there's a lot of points to that story. It's not a single one. But let me just try to make my point more clearly and not an allegory. I'm saying you or I do not have an ability to say what is objectively true about what is a good outcome or a bad outcome.
So how do you get to say then? How do you get to say that the outcome she's engaging in is good right now?
Because I can see that a lot of people are expressing joy, and to me, specifically saying we do not feel afraid of Kiwi Farms now. Kiwi Farms is down. This is a
Kiwi Farms is not down.
It is significantly reduced in power. Would you agree?
Not really. You still get people visiting it quite a bit. So.
Yes, but has it been? Is it going up or is it going down?
I don't know. I haven't looked at it. Have you looked at the stats of it going up and down? Have you checked the site traffic of it?
I trust journalists who have
oh my! So that's a no. That's a no, by the way. So you're in the exact same position I am. We have no idea how much it's gone up and down. It is still on the website, right? Not to mention the fact. Hang on.
Journalists. You don't trust news.
There are some journalists that I do not trust. Yes, there are some journalists that I do not trust the reporting of. Yes, and I guarantee there are some. Hang on. I guarantee there are some journalists that you don't trust the reporting on either.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say to you, if like 5 journalists are all saying one thing and no journalists are saying the opposite, generally we agree that that's the story. And people who disagree have the requirement to provide some evidence it's not true. If I go to the news story, they got a bunch of evidence that their sites are down. I didn't personally go to Cloudflare and like whatever.
Well, you should. If you want to make the claim that the site traffic has gone down, right? You should go investigate for yourself.
I'll do it right now.
Do it right now. Go see it. Go see if the Kiwi Farms no, hang on. Go see it because it's not where it's coming from. It's the site itself. Go check if the site traffic for Kiwi Farms specifically.
I'm not literally going to go to that site.
Then don't fucking make the claim. Well, then no, don't. It's not about going to the site. It's seeing how much site traffic it has had.
I feel like you reject expertise just like out of pocket. Like
no.
Confused where you're coming from.
Because okay,
experts but not journalists somehow.
Link the news article and we can read the whole fucking thing that says that Kiwi's farm site traffic has slowed.
Okay, if that's the claim you're most concerned about citing.
Well, that's what no. That's what you said is that Kiwi Farms itself has had a massive reduction. Don't go sure. That was your claim. We're going down your road.
You know what? Oh, the reason why I'm having this tone is because we covered this in DMs and I specifically cited Cloudflare's own statement that they had dropped Kiwi Farms from their services.
Yes.
Which leads one
believe it or not,
assume
other services can pick up the Kiwi Farms and people can still access it to the same degree.
The reason why I'm struggling with this is because you're asking for such an odd citation on such a curious issue. Like, it's like, who cares? Let's say Kiwi Farms.
I care. I care, and this is something I want to talk about.
Okay, sure. All right. Well, what source do you think would be best for us to?
I don't give one you trust. Give you one you trust. No, give one you trust. This is your claim that you have made your mind up with. Yeah. Do you want to read that one? I can go pull it up right now. We can read it.
Okay, sure. We'll read the Cloudflare statement that I cited to you because that was a very clear statement that they had dropped them, which leads one to conclude that can
be both of these things can be true. That Cloudflare Cloudflare has dropped them, but that Kiwi Farms has been picked up by another one, and they are still as active as they were before. Do you realize that both of those things can be true?
Well,
It's still active. People are still going on it. People are still going on it.
Hypothetical.
No, I'm not.
Look,
People are
buddy,
still going on it.
Okay, I'm not saying no one's on it. I'm saying traffic likely went down since Cloudflare blocked them. Do you not? If you disagree with that, I don't know why. It's such an odd thing to disagree with. It's
If
like
you
saying,
already have users,
they lost their infrastructure. Their traffic must have went up. Like, I don't know where you're coming from.
I didn't say that their traffic went up. If anything, I'm saying that their traffic has probably remained fairly stable.
Okay, cool. If that's your claim, we both can't back up our claims. That's all I'm trying to say, right? We both can't actually pull up their sites. That's often internal information. I don't know who tracks that stuff. My source is Cloudflare, which is a DNS service, which is how we use news and information is all about inference and making educated guesses that other people believe pass the mustard.
So since Kiwi Farms is not off the internet, you're still able to access it from certain places. Is it fair to say that she was unsuccessful at getting it removed from the internet?
I mean, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
She didn't bring it down to zero, but
Yes.
she probably brought it down from where it was.
She
And
might
I
have.
think that's
Yeah,
a good
she
day
might
for
have.
the internet.
Okay.
The thing
But
I'm
it's
confused
not
about is,
gone.
why aren't you celebrating that one of the worst parts on the internet is effectively being bullied out of this space?
Yeah, see,
and
right.
you're more concerned
right.
about the bullying. I'm
Right. Well, I
confused about
am.
that.
I am because that's really scary. It's really scary that you can
Yeah.
have such a
No,
large
but
group of people.
Kiwi
Hang on.
Farms isn't
Hang on. No,
scary.
no, 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 no,
Not
no, no,
Kiwi
no, no.
Farms.
Hang on. Stop. You need to remove yourself from the actual Kiwi Farms itself. Do you think we as a society should have the ability to bully any website off the internet like that?
It depends what society you're in. What are you talking about?
Just
The
this
internet's
society. Do you
different
think we
depending
should
on-
be able to bully domain hosters to remove websites from the internet? Do you think that is a power that society should hold?
Can we define the word bully?
You have campaigns to get websites dropped.
If I
Whether
bully
it's
a
through
fact-
constant mentions, quote tweeting, like letter campaigns, any of that shit.
Yeah.
Aggressively.
My question to you is, to help answer this question, does it matter who is the recipient of the bullying? To you, is it all bullying is wrong?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
So I
If
would
you
say
are the instigator of the bullying, yes, that is wrong.
Okay, cool. So if you're responding to bullying, then you're a defender.
If you are defending yourself, but you have to realize that hang on, stop. When you are defending yourself, there is a use of force wheel, right? That you should be matching the person's aggression,
Energy.
right? If you
It doesn't work.
It doesn't. They're
obviously
still
works.
there. They're not deplatformed. They still have a platform.
Oh yeah, and Trump is doing great on Truth Social.
He still has a platform. He still has followers. Deplatforming
I
didn't
know.
work for him.
No one, I know, but you're really arguing a weird semantic. You're saying because it didn't go to zero, it therefore didn't go down? Like, what are you talking about here? Twitter's bigger than Truth Social. Obviously, you're losing viewership. It's smaller platform. Rumble is smaller than YouTube. You're not deplatformed from everything. That never happens. It never happens. You can always increase your technical ability in order to remain on the internet. That's the dark web.
So
But
why?
generally,
Okay, then we're way off from where we were originally, but that's fine.
Sure. Where do you want to go back?
No, it's fine.
You might be.
Hang on. What do you do with the people that are being more radicalized into these echo chambers as you deplatform them?
What do you do? But that's, I think, one of the best questions you've asked. I think if we could stay on that question, I've been thinking about that for so long. I think it's a great question. I don't know, man. It's a good one. It's a really good question. I don't know. It's like a socio-emotional thing. We've got a lot of economic problems that is leading to people being alone on the internet. I don't know. It's such a tough. Like,
Well, you're suggesting the deplatforming that is leading to this. You must have thought of some kind of solution for it. Just spitball with me. What would you like to see happen?
Okay, if you would accept that deplatforming is like not a binary but a gradient, then I would say increasing spaces that are wholesome, like shout out Jay Marianne, shout out Heem, shout out Denims.
But
shout
you-
out,
But you have to realize that, well, hang on, the people that are coming in are going to have a lot of growing pains, right? They're going to probably come in a little aggressive because they're probably pissed off that they've been, deplatformed from certain areas, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we know
do you
that,
think
like,
do you
we
think
have to-
most do you think even like a fraction of the communities are going to be willing to engage in that kind of stuff?
Well, that's for those communities to decide. Some communities, like Healthy Gamer, thrive specifically on that process. Other people, their community is about creating a safe space to shield themselves from the hatred in the world. If you are a part of a marginalized community, we're two white dudes talking right now, just to be very clear. Probably not being marginalized or victimized on the reg, and people who are.
Well, hang on.
Let's say,
You have absolutely no idea what has happened to me in my life, so you cannot tell me that
I don't
want to
make any assumptions.
Well, you just did. You did. But that's okay.
I
Continue.
made assumptions about your identity. I hope.
Yeah, you made assumptions that I haven't been regularly victimized in life, but please continue.
Marginalized maybe might be a better word. Excuse me.
Sure.
I apologize for that. Yeah, sorry. Let's say marginalized communities more often face victimization, and so if you're in that space of feeling traumatized, you might not be ready for advice. You might be seeking nothing but comfort and support and people who just help you get over the trauma. And that brings us back to like our advice situation, right?
Yeah, but we're not talking about those people, right? We're talking about the people that are being deplatformed and are like pissed off that they're being deplatformed, right? We're not talking about marginalized communities that online have tons of like safe spaces where they can express themselves. That's easy if you're in those communities. They're everywhere.
Kiwi farms can go fuck off to Russia. Why do we care about kiwi farms? Why do we care?
No, it's not that I care. Listen. You need to detach yourself from fucking kiwi farms. I don't care. It would be any website. Stop. It would be any website that is receiving this kind of like, if there was an LGBTQ website that was being bullied off the internet by right-wing fucktards, I would be just as aggressive right now.
It depends if the underlying claims to the bullying are true or not.
It's the idea of being able to bully a website or make a campaign to get a website removed from the internet. That's really scary. And we know, hang on. We know in today's online kind of political climate that once a certain side or political spectrum or whatever picks up a tactic, it is almost guaranteed by sometime in the next, very near future, the other side will also pick up that tactic. So that is my question.
Ideological arms race. Yeah.
It a little bit to some degree. Mutually assured destruction. Yeah, mutually assured destruction and all that shit, right? Are you comfortable with the idea that down the road there might be a ton of right-leaning people putting pressure and aggression on other domain hosters to drop websites? Would you be okay if those domain holders started dropping websites in the same way because they were receiving public outlash or public backlash?
On a case-by-case basis, depending on the underlying evidence presented, then yes. If there is a part of the internet that is generally outside of the rule of law, let's say international waters, or let's say the dark spaces of the internet, and there is no real social response, police don't even know what trans people are apparently in London, they're just like, wait, what's this? Then I think it makes sense for people to organize themselves within their communities to defend themselves. The institutions will not save you. When governments collapse, you need your neighbor to help save you. The very first thing you were so up on about giving advice about security, well, what if my neighbor says, as advice, we got to band together because people are out there trying to get us harmed. Like, that's what's happening here. There's a community defending themselves from really scary people, and they figure
but in your worldview,
non-violently.
But in your worldview, that guy couldn't come out and give that advice because nobody's asked for it. In my world, he could go to his neighbors and go, "Hey guys, there's people fucking around on the internet. Maybe we should go talk about what we can do."
Internet.
Huh?
Ice Feelings has a good question. Do you think kiwi farms being dropped is a good or a bad thing?
I think it's neutral. I don't think it's good or bad. I think it might lead to really bad outcomes where we see like bullying campaigns. But as a website as a whole, it's probably a good thing being dropped. It's a pretty shitty website for sure. I don't disagree with that, but I don't like the idea of. No, it's.
That seems easy only because Like the reason Kiwi Farms is being used is because they have a track record. You can't dismiss this stuff so out of hand. You can't go through life having these neutral rules. We usually apply stuff by a case by case.
No, the issue is
based
it's
off
not
the
as black and white as you're leading it to be. And I'm trying to demonstrate to you that there's more dimensions to this than just good,
absolutely.
bad, drop, don't drop. Right? There's so many more things.
Absolutely. That's why my answers haven't been yay or nay. They've been like, well, probably.
They have. You've literally said it is a good thing that they were dropped. But then when I asked you, does it make you uncomfortable? You're like, well, I don't really know. Well, maybe. Well, kind of. It's like, bro.
Based on the evidence I have seen presented as a member of the public, I am happy that a Canadian streamer is slightly safer from bad people on the internet because of stuff she did with her community.
But she's obviously not, because you would agree that it was dropped from Cloudflare, right? And then I believe she was okay. And then I believe that afterwards somebody still took a picture outside of the place she was staying at. Correct?
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So if Kiwi Farms wasn't up, and she was then doxxed and harassed by somebody else after that, what does that tell you?
It tells me that there's still an ongoing campaign to.
Yeah, that tells you that that tells you that the issue is coming from somewhere else.
So, like, let's just clarify. Ice Beans is being very helpful right now.
What the fuck, Ice Beans? You're in his chat, not mine.
Yeah, well, this is how it is. You got the shout out. Let's go.
True.
So let's just be super clear. You don't like. For me, the content of Kiwi Farms' actions determine whether it was okay for them to be bullied off the internet. And I have seen evidence presented to me that convinces me that content was bad and harmful. There's been lots of news reporting, local, national, and international. That's the full spectrum. Therefore, is it for you? I'm asking you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's like they got dropped because of mass reports, not because the mass reporting got Cloudflare to see Kiwi Farms' bad behavior? Like that's what we want to distinguish here. Are you? Do you
okay.
What's worse here?
Wait, what's worse? What?
Question.
Yeah, that was a super butcher. That's okay. Ice Beans can come and relay it back in my chat. If Kiwi Farms was so bad, and which we can agree that it is, why didn't Keffals make the campaign before all this shit happened? If she was really concerned with the things that it has done in the past, why does it? Why? Well, hang on. Why is it?
Better?
Huh?
Don't let the ideal be the enemy of the good. You can ask all day, why didn't someone do better situation? Hindsight's 2020. Who cares?
No. Well, it only seemed to be a campaign once it started to affect her. Correct?
What's your point?
Well, the point is that I think that saying oh, look at all this bad stuff that it's done in the past, that's why it had to get shut down. No, it was because it started harassing Keffals. It started doing shit on there that was related to Keffals. It had nothing to do with Near or Chloe. It didn't. No, it didn't. Absolutely, it didn't. Now it is. Now it's couched in that because that's the justification now. But it wasn't originally that, because if that was the case, right, these people were already harmed. That would have been something right off the bat.
You know that meme of the Grim Reaper going door by door by door? It's like he did that. The Grim Reaper is Kiwi Farms. They've already allegedly succeeded in 3 wins, as they would call it, and then they get to Keffals' door, and Keffals opens the motherfucking door and brings it. And you're asking, why didn't Keffals step in when door 1, 2, and 3 were opened? What? I'm so confused. Did they not do a good thing by leading a campaign that dropped Kiwi Farms?
No, they did, but it wasn't. But no. It is, but it's not for the reason that you're saying. It wasn't because it supposedly led to all these issues where these 3 people supposedly offed themselves. It was because they started to go after Keffals. If we're gonna talk about no. If we're gonna talk about it, let's at least be honest of the reason the campaign started. It wasn't for those people. It wasn't because those things happened. It was because they started going after Keffals.
Keffals, the trans activist, gets targeted by Kiwi Farms and says, hey, these people have harmed other trans people in the past, and you're saying this was not about those people. Keffals was lying. When she brings up Near and does an entire video on Near, just absolutely has nothing. She could have stepped up then. Why didn't Keffals do more? like
It's
what is
fine that she started it
oxymoron?
when when it started to affect her. That's fine. I'm not condemning that action at all. If people think that, but hang on. But that doesn't mean you then get to also work in that you were doing it for these people. You weren't. You were doing it for yourself, which is fine. But let's not pretend. No, like, do you believe that? Do you believe in like the concept of like? Hang on. Do you believe in the concept of like stolen valor and shit like that?
That has to do with the military?
It's just in
That's a
general.
military
Usually when you're asking for like,
That's a military term.
it is, but it can be used for
Stolen
other
valor
things.
for it.
Pardon me?
Go ahead and explain stolen valor.
I'm pretty sure stolen valor is when you're asking for credit that you don't deserve, right? Like you're saying, I did this thing because of X, or I did this thing.
I can understand that. Sure.
Yeah.
I understand it as a military term in terms of medals and shit, but absolutely, I understand your more general. That's
Okay.
fair. Let's go.
Okay. Do you think that it's being done here a little bit when it's like it's realistically it's done because it started to affect her, and she's just kind of like putting on the fact that this happened to other people because like realistic. Okay. Here's a question. Do you think? Hang on. Do you think if Kiwi Farms had never addressed Keffals, that she would have taken on this campaign?
I don't know. Go ask her.
Well, I'm asking
How would I
you.
know that?
I'm asking you what you think.
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
I
fair.
can answer. I don't know what someone might have done. That's a really weird question. What might you have done
Well-
2 years ago? Like whatever.
Well, that's what I'm
You think-
trying to say is that the reason that she's doing it, I don't think is because hang on.
You don't either. You just making it up because.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I'm speculating. I don't think she would have. I don't think she would have.
Person who was victimized under identity of being a trans person also recognizes other victims who have been victimized for their trans identity. That seems like a very Occam's razor simple explanation for why someone might be saying, holy shit, look what happened to me. Who else did it happen to? I gotta stop this person so it doesn't happen to anyone else. That is often the reason why sexual assault survivors come forward and actually testify, because even though they might have been victimized and they know that maybe this person has victimized others, it is extremely difficult to go into the public stand and actually expose your identity and try to take down a bad actor. And people should be applauded for it and not asked a million questions about like what they have done.
That was a great virtue single ramble. Do you think Keffals being online as long as she has, being like a trans activist, being aware of like these shitty areas in the internet, was aware that Kiwi Farms existed long before she was ever like doxxed or harassed by that site?
I don't know when someone might have been aware of something.
But do you think she would be? Let's speculate a bit. Do you think so?
Let's say sure. Probably.
Okay.
Possibly. Probably.
Okay. Do you not see the issue that is like she knew of all this she knew of this place, she knew of the garbage things that she might have known of, like the garbage things that went on there, right? I'm pretty sure she even had an account there that she would go and read like through threads and shit like that, right? You don't think that like at any other point in time she could have done this campaign? It was only when it started to affect her that she started to use this campaign and then started to use the names of the people that had been hurt before as a way to bolster.
He's using their names. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you think?
Really quick.
Yes.
Can you, just to clarify, because this might be an unrelated tangent, I'm not sure.
Okay.
How is whether Keffals was aware of Kiwi Farms previously before she started her campaign relevant to the central claim?
Because I don't think she actually gives a fuck about those people. I think she just used it as a way to like bolster her claim to like get that hashtag like trending and stuff. Yeah. For sure, I'll say it. Fuck yeah.
The person who raised the most, one of the Twitch streamers who raised the most money for trans issues.
Yeah, you can still do bad. No, it's not that she. No. Holy shit, you're just listen to me. You can care about a general idea, but not give a fuck about specific people. Do you disagree with that?
But how do you know that?
Hang on. Do you disagree with that? Hang on. Do you disagree with that? Do you disagree with that?
Repeat it. Like
you can care about a general idea or like identity, but not give a shit about individual people.
Sure, one may.
Yeah.
Sure. But how do you know? You're saying not one. You're
I'm
saying
not saying I know. I even told you at the beginning. Hang on. I even told you at the beginning of this. I'm speculating, 100%. Because this is what I've started to do for.
Okay, I gotta go.
Hang on. Just hang on. This is what I've started to do for claims. Things that have happened, situations like this, I start to look at it like a crime scene. Okay, I start to gather evidence.
Okay. You're not a murder investigative. You don't.
Well, a lot of this involves investigating, going through things, checking sources, trying to put together like what actually happened. It is very similar, I assure you. Okay.
Kruger.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, what's my back? Hang on. You don't know what's my background?
do you have any?
You have no fucking idea what my background
I'm
is.
asking you now. You can tell us.
Yeah, I do actually have. I do have experience in investigations and like security work. Yeah, actually, I do.
In security work?
Yeah.
One. What have you done?
Well, I'm not. I don't want to dox myself. I'm not going to tell you. I keep a lot. Unlike Keffals, I
I'm
keep a
asking
lot of
what
my
your
information
expertise
private.
is. I'm not asking
Yeah.
for your location.
I didn't say I had
What's your
expertise. I said I had experience in the field with doing investigations on things.
Okay, let's take you at your word.
Okay.
So I guess my question to you is, if Keffals should have done something earlier, why didn't you give Keffals advice earlier? And this is a question from Potato Band Plug.
Yeah, because I didn't know of Keffals earlier. So how can I give advice to somebody I didn't know existed?
Well, you see how you're kind of
No,
curious
no,
questions
no, no.
about when
No, no, no,
someone knows
because-
something is internal and who knows.
We
How do
already.
you assign moral blame to people you don't know their thoughts?
If I'm not terminally online and I don't follow these these obscure communities when they're starting out, how could I possibly know of somebody when I don't know them? How can I give advice to somebody I don't know?
Well, that's what I asked you earlier.
No, no,
You
and then
said that advice from a
asked
mother
you-
and a stranger are
Yes.
identical, apparently.
No, and then I asked you, but I can't give advice to a stranger I don't know exists. Okay? When I asked you, do you think she had knowledge of kiwi farms? You went, yeah, maybe, probably. So that was like, that's where I kind of like then built the speculation around.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say to you is knowledge. Like I gave a very clear example of a sexual assault survivor who knows that the person who has assaulted them has assaulted previous persons, but that still doesn't put the moral responsibility on them to make themselves more vulnerable, to take the public stand, to testify. Like I don't know why you're placing that on a victim. It's really bizarre. It's extremely bizarre. You're saying to victims, why aren't you doing more? And it's like, you should be asking police, you should be asking everybody but the victims, why aren't you doing more?
If the police don't know that a crime has happened, how are they supposed to investigate?
If the police, so
If the
that's
police
a
don't
good
know a
question.
crime, yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
No. So I read into this a lot. I want to say that, and I mentioned this earlier, the London Police Service's change in policy, they're like the second police service to do this in Ontario.
Sounds pretty progressive of them.
Exactly. And the situation I would compare it to is Toronto, where they had a very similar situation, but the fake email or phone calls alleging that Keffals was doing something wrong did not result in a raid. And there I can say to you, police clearly act as the filter between false positives and false negatives, right? Like they're the ones who say assess claims. We give them discretion to say this is worth investigating.
But
now, if the London Police Service were as sophisticated as the Toronto, hopefully they will, inshallah, they would have screened this appropriately, called Keffals, hey, did you send this email? Keffals says no, which is what happened in Toronto, and no story, no problem.
Who do you think? Which police force do you think had more resources and probably more experience with trans people at the time? The London, Ontario police or the Toronto police?
I'm not assigning blame. I'm trying to be just not prescriptive.
Wait, how are you giving advice to the police if they haven't asked for consent? I'm sorry, I'm just memeing.
I can they did consent because they took on the uniform and they were elected. They were like, they're literally public officers. There's so much.
I was just fucking memeing with you, bro. Calm down.
Are you just walking into L's? I can't
No,
tell.
I'm not. I assure you, I'm not.
Fucking lol. Sen, you got something for us?
Actually, can
rephrase because we've moved off a little bit.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask. Can I hear some of the advice that let's say I go to BeWyrd and say, hey man, I'm getting doxxed and harassed. What's some advice that you would give me to avoid some of that? I wanna hear your advice.
That's it. If you're getting doxxed and harassed.
Yep, I want your
man.
advice. You have no advice for me. I'm asking for your advice. Hey man, help me out. Give me some advice.
You know, some of the best advice I could give someone is to tell them exactly when and where I don't have the expertise, and to tell them to seek out someone who does have that expertise, who can give them appropriate advice.
I'm too nervous.
If I sound off.
I'm too nervous. I need you to give me. I need some advice. I need some advice for you. I trust you. I don't trust experts because I don't know them. I know you personally. I want advice from you.
Then I give advice as best I can.
Okay, then give me advice. I'm asking for it right now.
Well, I'm not going to do that because I personally do not feel like I have the expertise to give that. I can in the hypothetical because you forced it into me, but in the real world, where we are really talking on live public, I am not going to give advice about operation security to an audience. in the hypothetical, we are friends, and you press me and say you won't go to another expert. Sure, no problem. I'll help you out as a buddy privately. But
have you read
can go to
anything?
another expert.
Have you read anything on operational safety or anything like that?
Yeah, of course. I work in IT. I'm a systems administrator.
Okay, so you do have some expertise in the area. You must have advice to give people then.
It's dated expertise, which is why I would not give it.
Okay.
I haven't been a systems administrator in like over 5 years, so I would not be applying dated standards to a current security. But I understand how that stuff kind of
okay.
sort of works.
Based on your old assessment, do you think Keffals is taking the right steps to avoid like doxing and harassing right now?
I think that people manage their risk in both logical and emotional ways, and that logically, it's probably not a good idea to be going out live streaming IRL. But, however, emotionally, being queen for a day and showing that you are free. Freedom, man. Where's the pro-freedom argument that Keffals won the day for a marginalized community that has been under assault for many years in the dark web, and now that she has succeeded and dropping them and making them a little bit less relevant, she can actually lower her OPSEC just a little bit so that she doesn't have to live in fear. Like,
okay.
what do you want from her? To like not have pictures out, not live stream? Like, what do you want from her?
Yeah, she could do both of those things if she was concerned about doxing and harassing. When she got doxed in Canada and the police showed up, you would say that she had to flee because she felt unsafe, eh?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, when she was doxed and harassed in Canada and the police showed up, would you say she had to flee Canada because she felt unsafe?
I don't know. That was a decision she made. I don't know.
Well, that's specifically something you've said in the past. I know you've walked it back on your one of your last live streams when we were going through the Twitter feed. But do you think that was the case?
Because I wasn't sure if it was true, but she did flee country, right?
Okay.
She did flee to Ireland.
Why?
So
why did she? Why did she flee there? Because of the doxing and harassing and the police showing up, correct?
Well, I can't remember what reason she gave, but probably, yeah. You don't feel safe when you are in a small town. From what I understand, they were able to figure out her location.
Wait, London, Ontario is a small town?
Relatively compared to the world. I know we're Canadian, but our cities are small, my guy. Oh, Paradigm Shift. Yo, how you doing? How's it going?
Man, 400 people. What?
Yeah, London, Ontario is like not a big city, my guy.
Man, Belfast is smaller than London, Ontario, so she fled to somewhere that is smaller than where she was at. If she felt unsafe in London, hang on. If she felt unsafe in London because it was too small, why did she flee to a smaller place?
I'm really confused how you know more about her.
Because I've done research. Okay, because I think.
Yeah, you've
hang
done
on.
Research, my
yeah.
guy.
Okay.
That's fucking funny. That's so good.
Okay, so if she had to flee Ontario because she felt unsafe, because she was being harassed and doxxed and police were showing up, why do you think she hasn't done the same in Ireland?
I don't know, ask her.
I'm asking you, why do you think?
I did give a pretty
I'm asking you what you believe and what you think. That's what I want to probe right now. Why do you think she hasn't left?
I'll repeat.
Let's speculate. Let's have fun. Come on.
I'll repeat what I said before,
Okay.
which is that like people treat security like logically and also emotionally. There is both, because I would ask you, there is often said in security circles, there's a tension between security and comfort. Would you agree?
Yeah, you sometimes have to sacrifice some for the other. Yep.
Correct. Right. And it's sort of like they're tied together. So all I'm saying is Keffals was super secure, fighting a war, VPN, bunch of shit, wins the war, and now releases security in favor of comfort and celebration and community building and we did it. Let's fucking go.
But she's still receiving but the issue is she's still receiving harassment. So why hasn't she fled Ireland as well, a place that she is receiving the same, if not a little bit more harassment than before? Because before it was just police showing up to her place, and now it's just random people.
Again,
if anything, she's more unsafe in Ireland.
Each person is in control of their own security, and sometimes, hopefully, the police help. Now, if Keffals feels secure and she says she feels secure, then we take her at her word. I'm not sure why you would know better. You are further away from the context of the security situation. You're like
because I know that
really
people can
lie. You're a rando on the internet.
Okay.
Have some perspective. Have some.
I do. I am. I'm saying that there's a lot of things that don't add up and don't make sense in her story. That's
Usually
what I'm.
when that happens, that's because you're lacking contextual clues or information.
Yeah, maybe, man. Maybe.
Let me ask you a simple question.
Yeah, go ahead.
That the person who knows more about a company's security apparatus, the CEO or the guy outside the building?
Who do you
watching what's
think?
happening?
Who do you think? Do you think both are subject to bias?
Yes.
Okay.
All people-
Could it be that the person at the CEO, is missing something because they have a particular goal in mind?
This is why pen testers exist. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are
Okay,
you a
so
pen tester offering
I-
expert advice that the CEO has solicited? No.
Yeah, maybe.
You're just some rando on the internet concerned troll.
Yeah, because I comment on things that I see on the internet. That is what I do. Correct.
There it is.
Thank you.
Right,
You
but
also
the
do
value
this
of
by
your
hang on.
opinion-
You also do this by the way. You just do it in the positive that you confirm that what you're seeing is correct. Right? You're doing the exact same thing. You're commenting. You're doing everything I'm doing, just in the opposite direction. So I don't know why you're trying to use this
I'm
as
really
like a
trying-
dig.
Because I'm not inserting myself into another community's issues and trying to
Well, no, you're
like,
inserting
tell them
yourself
what
into
they
a
should do.
community saying that the solutions that they're engaging in are correct. Right? It's the same thing, just on the opposite side of the coin. If I'm the heads, you're the tails.
Wait. This is a good question that might help. If I say, "Good job, I think you're great," is that the same thing as you should have done X, Y, or Z? Like, I feel those are two different things. If I'm just saying, "Yo," let's
But they're
go
two sides of the
Keffals,"
same coin, right? They're
how?
both
Can you explain that?
because
One
you're
is support
validating
and
what
one
that
is
person is
criticism.
doing, and I'm challenging what the person is doing. They're both. That's why I'm saying they're two sides of the same coin, right? You're still inserting yourself and engaging with that community. The only difference is you're engaging in validation, and I'm engaging in criticism.
Do you think that people who are supportive are inside or outside the community?
You can be outside the
people who
community.
are-
You don't always have to. If I'm not a part of Keffals' community, I could still say that there are things that she's doing well, and there's things that she's doing unwell.
But wait, let me just get this clear. You think that me saying "Yay, Keffals" is concern trolling?
No.
Okay, well that's what you said. You're like,
No,
"You're
I
doing
said
the
it's
same thing
two
as I
sides
am."
of the same coin, dude. I'm saying we're both
agree.
engaged.
I'm
We're
like-
both inserting ourselves into that community, but in different ways. You're inserting yourself into that community with support and validation, and I'm inserting myself into that community with criticism.
But my question to you is, did the community solicit your criticism?
Did the community solicit your validation? Did anybody reach out to you and say, "Hey, I want you to validate what Keffals is doing"?
I mean,
Did they?
How do you know how I identify?
Did they?
How do you know how I identify?
Did they reach out to you and solicit you for your validation?
No.
So why are you giving it? What allows you to give the
because-
validation but me not the criticism?
Sure. The reason I'm giving it is because I did a charity stream for Keffals when I found out that a Canadian streamer was being targeted by a bad part of the internet, and a
Okay.
sense of me was like, "What can I do to support a marginalized community?" And I was like, "I'll do a charity stream," and so I did that, and that's how I started paying attention.
So in other words, you inserted yourself into that community with absolutely no prompting. I'm doing the exact same as you. I'm inserting myself into that community with no prompting. The difference is you look to do validation and support, and I look to criticize.
And I'm trying to impress upon you
Mm-hmm.
the extreme difference between support and criticism.
Well,
So
I
it's like
understand
saying-
that. I understand
Okay,
that. But the way we both got to be able to do what we're doing is in the exact same manner. But
Like,
because
the
yours,
coin
hang on,
is intervention or
because yours is support and validation, we don't often seek to criticize why somebody is inserting themselves into a community in the same manner. That's the
Mostly
issue.
Because if I support them and nobody's told me like, "Yo, what's up?" then probably fine. But if you're inserting your critical
Wait,
opinion and
probably fine? What makes it probably fine?
well, let me set up the alternate example to set
Okay.
the contrast. If you're inserting your critical opinion and people
Mm-hmm.
are responding, "Hey, that's probably not the right time," or "It's not helpful,"
Mm-hmm.
then it's probably not fine.
Yeah, but that advice I didn't ask them to prompt to me, so why are they giving it to me?
Because they're responding to you.
Exactly. I'm responding to what Keffals is doing in the same exact manner that if somebody is like, "Hey, I don't think that's the right time to give advice," they're doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's called the internet. It's called just.
Yeah, congratulations.
What's your point?
TC, can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
about
go
the-
ahead, Zen. Yeah,
as
go
the
ahead.
same coin thing?
Yeah,
Do you
go.
think that when people are accepting of information,
Mm-hmm.
are they more likely to be accepting of praise or criticism?
Most people are just looking for praise.
Okay. So, emotionally speaking,
Mhm.
do you think that a lot of people that act on the internet are looking for sources to get their criticism from specific places they feel
No, I
comfortable
think most. Sorry. Go ahead.
with? Do you think they get get them from sources they want to feel comfortable with, or do they have no vetting system for their criticism?
I think most people aren't looking for criticism at all. I think most people are go online to like complain or whine or just looking for like validation of with their issues for sure. I don't think most people
disagree
seek out
strongly.
criticism. Well, if they sought out criticism, they wouldn't mind where it came from, right? Like myself, I always seek out criticism. I always seek out criticism, and I don't mind. I've always said, you can ask Zen how many times I've told him, you got an issue with what I say, come criticize me. I'm totally down to hear it.
That's good for you.
Yeah.
Like
Because I'm
not
open to
trying say that
criticism.
sarcastically. That's a good thing.
Yeah, because I'm
Well,
open to
not-
criticism. I think most people on the internet are just looking for
Do you-
validation.
Do
I
you
think we
they're
know that based on
projecting
like
at all?
how like social media is addictive due to like the likes that people receive, right? I mean, we know that it or hurts people's mental health when they receive not likes but comments instead of like criticism, right? If a person was to post something and they were to receive nothing but comments, it would probably negatively affect their health. But if they were to receive nothing but likes, that validation, they would, it would bolster their mental health. So the fact is when we go online, we're not trying to seek out criticism of what we're posting or what we believe. We're looking for validation on our beliefs.
So have you ever heard of the backfire effect?
Yep.
So you are aware.
Do you want
of
to
the
hang on? Do you
backfire
want to
effect?
explain this to the people that don't know?
Yeah, the backfire effect is the phenomenon that when people are addressed, I think this was done with climate change, when they are provided facts and evidence that would disprove their pseudoscientific beliefs or their conspiracy theories around climate change, it actually entrenches their beliefs further. And there's a bunch of variations to how this can happen. So for me, I'm really confused. If you know what the backfire effect is, and you know that giving people critical information, regardless of whether you know them or not, is a good thing. Aren't you concerned you're not helping?
No, because then at that point you couldn't, if you truly believe that it was going to happen for every belief, you wouldn't criticize or like comment on anything, because all it's going to do is just further entrench everybody, right? The appropriate thing to do if you believe that, like if you believe that is always the case, you would just get off the internet and never give commentary about anything, right? The reality is I think if people listen to people giving advice and you try to like rationalize with them and actually discuss with them, I think you actually can turn people around. It's just a very long process. The thing with the backfire effect
You
is
just
it's
gotta
usually
fire enough advice. at
well,
them.
hang on. Well, the thing
Like,
is
what?
usually with the backfire effect, it's when you're discussing with somebody that is not willing to engage with you in like a way that actually seeks to change their beliefs, right? That doesn't mean that you
well,
shouldn't give. Hang on.
that's
It
the-
doesn't mean.
that's the
Hang on.
premise.
Hang on. It shouldn't be that you shouldn't give criticism, right? That's not the issue with the backfire effect. The backfire effect is more due to like when you have people that have such strongly held beliefs that they refuse to challenge. Right? When you do challenge them and try to present them with more information, they get more entrenched because they're unwilling to change those beliefs.
I'm sorry. Last I remember, the paper concluded by saying we're not sure exactly how this might play out and how to address this. So I'm very surprised you are offering the right solution.
How does
on the
anybody
backfire
hang on?
effect. You
How
should
does anybody
publish a paper
change?
on this, my bad.
How does anybody change their
We don't
beliefs then?
know.
Well,
We don't
what we
know.
do is because they challenge, they introspect, they think about them, right? They analyze what
What
they
are you
believe
in,
and
like,
what they
ancient
think.
Athens right now?
You know what? I fucking wish I was some days. I'd love to I'd love to see some gladiator fights. Sounds base as hell.
Okay, so I'm gonna make the very simple point that people
What? Hang
assign value based off of expertise, and expertise often can be someone that you don't know but they like have accreditation, or someone you do know and whose opinion has worked out for you in the past. They have like a track record or something. That's why.
Sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say, do you criticize or comment on anything on your stream?
Yeah, of course.
Why, when it could be further entrenching people that disagree with you?
Because
Why
I'm
would you?
not
Why would you want to further entrench those beliefs when you don't know how people are going to receive that?
because people are coming to my content,
Okay.
and they are free to leave.
Okay, the same thing. She's
I'm-
free
and I'm
not to
not
listen.
having-
Hang on, she's free to not listen to my advice, but I'm still going to give the advice regardless. Because there might be somebody that comes along, is having similar issues, and goes, "Wow, that's actually really a good advice for my life." That's why I'm putting it out there.
If you get blocked for concern trolling, like, yeah, that's just going to be how the
Well, no, she blocked me because she did like a big bot thing because she didn't want the criticism, but that's fine.
Yeah, that's why. That's what
Yeah.
happened.
It is. Because I had never interacted with her. Hang on, because I had never interacted with her before I was blocked. And it actually took somebody else tagging me in something for her to unblock me. Saying that I had good
Oh,
faith
you
criticisms. Yep.
Then awesome. Then that's a sign that your opinions are of good value because
Yeah, but
you don't
you realize
have a
that-
personal.
But you realize the fact that she went to
I'm trying
go.
support you here.
But the fact that she blocked me without ever having to engage with me, right, meant that she was looking to explicitly root out criticism or critiques or advice before it could even be given.
How do I know if someone's critiquing me or just concern trolling? If I don't know who they are and they're just spouting off on the internet.
Yeah, how would you tell the difference?
Well,
Is it
I
just the
block people
repeat
because I
advice?
don't want to see nonsense. And if I see nonsense and I can block a person, it is within my power. That has nothing to
But
do
you haven't.
about
But she didn't.
whether
She
I'm
didn't
accepting
see.
of criticism.
Yeah, but she didn't see any nonsense because I hadn't given any advice at that point. I hadn't even engaged with her.
Oh, so your allegation is that Keffals blocked you without any information about you? Or
Yes,
like,
we
how
know
did-
this because she used bots. That if like I haven't followed her stream because she specifically has. Hang on, because she specifically has a bot that will just block
sure,
you if you're from DGG or other communities.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah.
But that
You-
ties
so-
right back to
No, but-
expertise and
but hang on.
community.
But what you're saying is you make a very blanket general statement without knowing whatever advice that somebody's going to give. That just because you're part of might be part of a community means you have no advice or actual criticism to give. That sounds
that's an
well.
extremely
That's what she's.
dumb and-
Well, no, that's what she's saying is if you're from that community, I'm going to block you, right?
Yeah.
Whether you have
Okay.
good advice or not, just because you're a part of that community.
So let's go back to the spine issue. Am I going to block chiropractors because it's a pseudoscience, or does that mean I'm just not
You could
willing
if you-
to listen to criticism?
You could if you wanted to, yeah, if that's something you want to do. But
Exactly.
but hang
I
on,
would,
hang on.
because
But
they
you're
have
making the
good
but hang on,
opinions about
hang on.
spine.
Hang on, but you're making the blanket assumption that none of them have any good advice to give you, and you would just end up blocking them all. When that could not be like they still might have good advice, right? Like, hey, you should be stretching every day. Hey, you should be ensuring that your joints stay free and moving by taking 30 minute walks every day, right?
Yeah, that's called medical science, and medical.
Yeah, but
science
that's
is
still
different from
advice
chiropractic.
coming. That's still advice coming from a chiropractor.
No, chiropractors are quacks, and I'm trying to impress that upon you.
Okay, can a quack still give good advice at some point?
No,
They can never give. So a chiropractor comes up to you and says, "Hey, you should eat a healthy, well-balanced diet." You'd go, "Wow, that guy's a quack. That's a really bad piece of advice."
the reason. Let me qualify.
No, hang on. I want you to
Because-
answer that first. Would that be bad advice coming from the chiropractor that you should eat a healthy, well-balanced diet?
Listen, you can keep stripping all the context from all of my answers and crowing about like you've won, but most
I'm
answers
not.
have context. Can I explain?
Yeah, go ahead.
So you can have the same words stripped of context, and they're both good, right? That's what you want me to say. But, however, the question is, how did they come to that conclusion? Did they get it from another source of expertise? Is it because they have peer review? Is there some sort of scientific process going on?
'Kay.
Generally, the scientific community describes chiropractors as not using the scientific process, which is why I'm not making some assumption that is broad. I am listening to experts of medical science saying these are not experts. Don't listen to them. Even if some of what they say is true, they don't know how they got to that conclusion, so don't trust them.
Yeah, see, this
So
is
we can-
this is what happens when you base the advice that you're being given off the person more than just the advice actually being given. Because
So,
the chiropractor
wait,
telling you to eat a well-balanced diet is a good piece of advice. That's an excellent piece
But
of
why?
advice.
Why is it a good piece of advice? Because medical science says so, not because chiropractic says so. That's the point I'm trying to make.
I'm not saying that
The
it's
advice
because
comes-
chiropractic says so. I'm telling you the person telling you it, regardless of where they're from or how they reach that conclusion, the advice of eating
How they reach-
a healthy, well-balanced diet is still a good piece of advice.
I guess the word good is just doing so much lifting
Oh
in there,
my
and you
God.
really don't want to engage with how you're
No.
just inserting this
No.
word to just abstract away where advice
No,
comes from.
we're gonna loop again about the same two pieces of advice giving from two different people, and then you
Can you do
You
hear me
only-
because chat's saying that they have a hard time hearing me. I just want to make sure.
Yeah,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
low, Sen.
you're super
Okay.
low. Get high, bud.
If that's the case, could both of you raise me on my end because I have my mic at pretty high.
Hell yeah, I always raise brothers up.
Okay.
140.
So for the purpose of this conversation, since we did not agree to our definition of good advice, I want to substitute when we say good advice. For BeWyrd, I want to say trusted advice.
Thank you. That's a
And-
great.
For CC, I want to say accurate or correct advice.
Sure.
Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay.
Awesome.
If we use those words, we will better communicate.
Hell yeah. That's That's what I want from.
So-
That's great. That's why
So
I was using the chiropractor and medical doctor, because one is trusted and it comes from a source. Like that's something I'm tying here that you might be disagreeing with me.
Okay,
For
I have a
me,
question.
advice
Hang on.
comes from expertise.
I have a
It
question.
doesn't bring out
Well,
of the ether.
no, it doesn't come from expertise. It comes from your relationship with that person, the trust you put in that person. If your mom comes to you and says, and your mom's a trusted source, and your mom says, "Hey, actually drinking like a 6-pack every day is like it's really good for you, because it has all these benefits." Are you going to trust that piece of advice from her because she's a trusted source?
Well, let's qualify. Is she trusted for giving medical opinions, or is she trusted because she's my mom?
She's trusted because she gives you advice on like healthy aspects, like eating a well-balanced diet and shit. You trust her for that stuff, and she comes to you and is like, "Hey, I have something that'll, a dietary advice for you again that like will really change your life." And she tells you to drink a 6-pack every day. Are you going to just
I
trust
think
her off the?
From what I understand, many children inherit the eating habits of their parents. There's like an interesting connection between like because the parents are preparing the food in your formative years, you're often eating those foods, and often children do trust the dietary choices of their parents, regardless of how accurate or
Well, let's say now
how
that
accurate.
you're older, would you trust that piece of advice, or would you go outside of the person that you're trusting to verify that information?
Well, most people kind of start to push, like, let's say your mom said one thing, and then you hear something from someone else who's really good at cooking. Well, there's going to be a little war in your head that we call cognitive dissonance, and then eventually one's going to win out. And you might have the opinion that I can't trust my mom 100%. I can only trust her maybe 75%, only on Italian food, let's say.
Well, then it's it's not more based off trust. It's based off of accurate and correct information, right? Because let's say you have a chef that you don't trust at all. Okay, guy's not a. Well, no, you're saying trust is the most important thing. I'm saying accurate and correct. Yeah, and I'm saying accurate and correct information is the most important thing. Okay, if a chef comes to you, hang on, you are. That's why Zen framed it as like trust, right? And he framed mine as accurate and correct. If a chef comes to you that you don't trust and he's like, "Hey, you should be eating like a certain serving of veggies every day because it's really good for you," right? And your mom comes to you and says, your mom who you trust says, "Actually, you shouldn't eat any vegetables at all." Whose advice are you going to take and why?
And I'm asking you, like, for me, trust is built off of experience.
Okay, that's fine,
And
but whose advice are you taking in that scenario and why?
Whose has worked out for you in the past. Like I trust my mom more because more of her.
So you would take your
more of
mom's
it-
advice that you shouldn't eat any veggies over the chef's advice that you should have a certain serving of vegetables every day in your meal.
Absolutely, yeah. If I grew up and my mom fed me meat, potatoes, and let me finish.
Okay.
Meat, potatoes, and a vegetable, let's say, or no vegetables. Let's just
No
say meat and
vegetables.
potatoes.
No vegetables.
Yeah. No vegetables, and we know vegetables are healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with you that the chef is giving good advice.
Okay.
However, because I have not built a relationship of trust, don't dismiss me. This is the point. Because I haven't built up a relationship with this chef, like let's say I just met him and he just said to me, "You should eat vegetables," I might say in my mind, he's probably right, but people don't just change when they hear a single logically correct thing. That's not how beliefs work. Our beliefs are intertwined with our experiences and our emotions. So more likely the person goes home and what's available in the cupboard is what gets cooked for that day. Meat and potatoes, because that was what the family buys, because budgets or whatever cultural reasons. So you see how like a single piece of advice can be clear and accurate and good, but because the person receiving it doesn't necessarily trust them to be receiving that type of information, they might still ignore it. And that's why you have people listening to good advice, but they're just not following it. It happens all the time. Exercise more, go to sleep, like we all
I agree,
know
and
this
I
stuff.
think all those I think all those people are in the wrong, and that's fine. And like so just to be clear, given those two pieces of advice, hang on, just to be given those two, hang on, no, maybe like you said, maybe I'm autistic, maybe I'm just all messed up in the head.
Very high ideals.
Yeah, I sometimes I've dealt with a lot of fucking shitty people in my life, so I've heard a lot of people justify some pretty fucking abysmal shit. So just to be clear, the two pieces of advice, you would just take your mom's advice just based solely on the fact that you trust her. And hang on, then the accurate and correct part is kind of like separate but still there.
Well, I'm saying trust is built through experience. The experience is part of like you're experiencing their expertise and whether the expertise is working out, clear and accurate and true. And sometimes that comes into conflict with new information that you don't trust that might be better. It might actually be better. And go ahead.
I'm just asking you which advice you would listen to and why.
I'm saying I don't know. I may believe one thing and do another. We are contradictory creatures. I don't believe in anyone who says I do all the logically correct things. That person is lying.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm at like you're okay. I'm gonna reframe it because I think you're kind of wiggling around it.
I'm just missing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think you have to decide which way your diet is going. Okay, you realize there's a problem. You're overweight. You know, you're having obviously issues with your weight. And the chef gives you the piece of advice, and you go to, and he says, "Hey, to lose weight, you got to have a more rounded diet. You got to eat vegetables." Okay, and your mom goes, "No, you don't have to eat vegetables. No. Actually, you can still just keep eating the meat and potatoes that you're eating. Don't worry about the vegetables." Which piece of advice are you taking for your dietary health, and why?
Gosh, I could write a whole play about this. Sounds like a poem.
Okay, but
so beautiful.
Which one would you take?
I don't know. That is the human.
I know. I would take the chef's advice because Okay, because he's trying to expand. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me just put it to you that people have sometimes two ideas in their head that conflict, and change is gradual. It doesn't happen overnight. And you could listen to the chef, and you could have in you the seed of doubt, that beautiful seed of doubt that is, maybe my mother isn't right. It is one of the most pure and holy things in the human spirit. And so sometimes that single advice, you're right, could have the possible potential of absolutely changing someone's life. The seed grows, they stop listening to Meat and Potatoes' mother, they start learning more about what actual food science is, and they discover there's chefs and they become a healthy person. I think in an extreme fantastical scenario, it is possible that a single advice from a single expert one time could have this beautiful effect. But I'm a realist, and I think that most people respond to the stuff around them, and that when you leave the expert opinion and you return to your mother, you return to your old beliefs, even if you have that seed of doubt. Would you disagree?
Yeah, I think to some degree. I think when a lot of people, when they're seeking advice, I think you're right to some degree. I think the experts matter. I don't think it's always the trust. I think a lot of people tend to more look towards the accurate and the correct kind of information, that a well-balanced diet is better for your health overall, and that mom telling you just eat meat and potatoes would be the advice that most people would probably ignore because they know it's not actually conducive to their well-being.
Science is otherwise. You seem to agree with me that kids adopt.
Okay.
Sorry, Sen.
I changed my audio so it might sound a little bit different just to make sure. Okay. So, CC, I want to emphasize something that I mentioned, and I'm going to prompt that with a question. What makes you trust the expert in your scenario?
Trust the expert? I don't know. That's probably usually a good question. Usually we tend to look at the track record of things they've said, how it kind of maps onto reality, what other people in the field have kind of said. I think a lot of times trust is built on other foundations that we kind of gather from the world.
So I want to present you, and this is only going to be a good example in the HEMS community.
Okay, I got like 20 more minutes too, FYI.
Okay. I'll make this fast.
Okay.
You ask for advice on a problem. Both Leonard and William
Will,
an answer.
Lamau.
Which one, regardless of which advice, is more correct or not, do you think that you will take?
If Leonard and Will, if they gave me the same piece of advice or different pieces of advice?
No, different pieces of advice for the same question.
I think it would really depend. I think I would take both of their pieces of advice into consideration and kind of research it for myself as both starting points to see which person is giving the best level of advice.
So you go through the world, and every time the same person makes a new claim, you reassess it without remembering whether they've given you good or bad advice before?
Yes, because I know that people... It's not. It's actually the other way is way more exhausting in my opinion. I have, like I said, I've dealt with a lot of people that have said a lot of things and I take people usually at their word point by point. And I even do this so much, that it's been actually a common criticism between my friends and family that I refuse to take most of them based on their word. Yeah, because I refuse to, because of the experiences that I've had in life.
You refuse to take them at their word? I thought you did take
For most piece of advice, I will use it as more as a starting point than actually taking it right as it is. Yep.
So who are the experts in your life, I guess, is my question. Because for me, I
can't point to a single person. I don't operate like that.
I'm wearing a Freedom Convoy hat, but it's in jest. Because I think the Freedom Convoy have bad opinions, and I would never go to them for an opinion on anything. Politics, science, whatever, except for memes. Rage Against the Machine, on the other hand, I might go to for some inspiration about how to be a more radical in politics, which is definitely needed nowadays. Do you see how I have made assumptions about the types of information I'm likely to get from these two different sources, and that I would dismiss out of hand most opinions from the Freedom Convoy?
Yeah, well, listen what you just said, dismiss most. That means you're going to take some of their opinions to heart and go fact check it yourself to see if they're telling you the truth or not, correct?
Truck, yeah, brother.
Okay, well, that's exactly what I do. Why are you criticizing me for it? But I do that for everybody.
But I'm saying, I'm asking you, like, I would do that, like, maybe for 10% of their claims.
Yeah, I do it for everybody. I do it for 100% of people. Fuck that shit.
Well, that's my question to you. I think that can't be totally true, because you're just as prone to the algorithms as you or I.
Yes, and I'm going to get things wrong, but I'm still going to make a really good faith effort to, like, verify, fact check what people are telling me and the advice that they're giving me. Yeah, 100%. Do you not make it? Do you just, there's just people that you don't make that effort for, and you just always take their advice no matter what it is?
There are some people who have given me such incredible advice, who are so much wiser than me. My vice president, Dina Smith, who helps me run this slam poetry, I will almost always listen to pretty much anything and everything she says, even if it conflicts with what I believe at the moment. She sees much further than I. Her horizon is, and oftentimes, given time. What, do you not have?
No, absolutely not.
Oh, you should find someone who you think is so.
No, I have people that so 100%. You don't fact check what that person says ever.
That's not what I said.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is I don't take 100% somebody right on their fucking opinion. There are a lot of things, almost all of the things that people will tell me, yeah, I'll go look into to see if it's legit.
But I guess the problem I'm having with that is that it sounds made up, because...
Yeah, I've had a lot of people tell me that before.
Let me finish. The reason I think it's made up is because you agreed earlier. Everyone has bias, and that algorithms often move us towards circles where we agree with each other. And I know you're called critical Canadian.
Yes.
But in order to break out of those, like the things that the algorithms are doing to us, you have to put in a gargantuan amount of effort. And I applaud you at your thing.
It is.
But,
yes.
But I would ask you, like, maybe could you clarify what's the most uncomfortable idea you've had to wrestle with in the past 3 to 6 months that's really changed your mind? I want to hear this. Absolutely. I've had to wrestle with the fact whether or not I'm a good father over and over for the last 6 fucking years because of the parenting I've experienced and the things that I was taught that supposedly makes a good fucking parent. I have done so much fucking growing over the last 6 years. You guys have no fucking idea the person I used to be. Okay. I'm not saying. Yeah. I'm sure you've been growing. Do you want to see the notes? Do you want to see the notes I made just for this talk alone? You can show me. It seems like you want to show me. Yeah, I do, because you're kind of like a little bit sus of the ways I engage with. No.
No, I think he's just curious.
I'm curious and being supportive. I think I'm asking you to just describe to the audience what it looks like when your mind changes. Not that you don't grow, or I know you grow. I just want to see what the mechanics look like. What does it look like when critical, what's in a position you have taken that you now have a reverse opinion? Oh yeah, deplatforming people. Okay, cool. Tell me more. I'm so interested. Yeah, I walked through a lot of the arguments. I did much of what I did here. I have this is how I prepared for this conversation. I found I discussed things that I thought that you might give me counters to certain things. I put all my ideas down on paper,
advice that I would give, pros, cons, notes, exceptions
I'm
on each.
asking you about that sea change moment though. Like, can you just be like?
It's not instantaneous. Are you asking for the, like, I don't understand what you're asking.
That's right. It's not instantaneous.
Yes.
That's kind of my point.
Yes,
Changes
but
are slow and.
But that's not the
recursive.
point. That's not the thing we're discussing. We're discussing about fact checking or questioning the opinions that people are giving us. You're saying that you have people that if they were to give you advice or opinions, you wouldn't challenge that because you trust them so full heartedly. And I'm telling you, I don't have people like that. I don't have people that I trust with 100% like
Can I
conviction.
explain to you why I might have that position?
Sure, go ahead.
I do a lot of improv I do some improv, and
Mhm.
one of my favorite things about it is this state of mind where you don't know what's next
Mm-hmm.
and your footing's a bit unsteady.
Mhm.
And sometimes when we get advice, like let's say this expert doctor who is challenging our mother's meat and potatoes regimen, we feel uncertain. And I have made it a strong effort to cultivate that uncertainty, that curiosity, because oftentimes I find that when I'm confused about something, if I let it sit for a couple days, I get a couple sleeps in, I think about it, I'll come out the other side with a much better view. I'll understand where that person was coming from and why they felt it was necessary to intervene and, let's say, offer advice, or in another example, I asked them for advice and they gave it, in 2 different situations. So that's all I'm saying. Like, it's healthy and wise to have people in your life who say things that come at you from such an angle, it takes you days, sometimes weeks to digest that. And in that moment, a period, you are kind of in this state of shit. Expert just said something that I really trust, but I've been doing this.
This
And
is
you have
literally
that-
nothing I disagree with, and it's something that I am engaging in, and I just told you that I engage in, right?
But then I'm confused why you don't applaud or have people in your life who serve that role, who it's not
Of
you
advice
pushing your-
givers, I have those people, but I don't take their advice on face value. I look into it myself.
Oh, sure, okay.
Do you have people in your life that you take the advice at face value and do no other digging to see if the advice is like actually coherent or correct before you actually start processing and digesting that?
I want to hop in here for just.
Hang on, no, fuck
I
off.
want this-
Answer that
Wait,
question first.
You tell Seine to fuck off. He's being very polite.
No, it's okay. I
I'll
tell
answer
him
the
all the
question.
time. He knows I love
And
him.
the answer is very simply, I just had it. Not all things can be debased into facts. And sometimes we have to make choices even when we don't have all the information. And yeah, absolutely, you can have some people be your guides who you don't feel the need to fact check them because you trust them. Like, that's a beautiful thing. And I hope everyone can find someone in their life that they trust. And it usually, like, if it blows up in your face, then yeah, you should probably be fact checking and questioning just how much you're trusting that person. But to me, it's like a gradient. If you ever get to a part in your life where you're like max gradient with someone, you're like, yo, they've been 100% for so many years. Yeah, you trust them at face value for sure.
Yeah, I don't think people
Okay,
get to
I wanna-
100% value, but okay.
I want to hop in here because I think before that was said, I thought that would be a great place to start ending closing statements. To just restate your position on where you should find your trusted information from, or correct information, whichever you interpret it from. And CC, you can go ahead and start.
Oh, okay. Is that where the topic moved to now? Is where we should get our advice from? Okay.
Yeah,
I
don't know. We should go to
I want-
no?
Yeah, I think we're kind of. I think the original topic is like, should she be IRL streaming down the street as she's receiving doxing and harassing? I'm pretty sure that was.
end this kind of topic and then ask a little bit with a little bit of time we have left.
Yeah.
So just so we can summarize, because that's what this has mainly been about. So, what's both of your opinions on what is the best way to get the best advice?
Develop trust in
Is he?
people who have given you good advice. No? Susie?
Okay.
How to give the best advice?
Where to get the best advice from?
Where to get I think the best advice can come from anybody, honest to God. Sometimes there are people that we don't even know on the internet. Personally, I don't know Zen. Personally, I don't know Ice Beans. Like, I know them on an internet sense, right? But I don't know them personally or to the same degree that I know like my family members, but there's still really good advice that they can give me. There's even really good advice you can get out of comment sections and things like that. If there's something, maybe an angle you're not seeing, maybe you're taking things a little bit differently, that you can stop and kind of like assess maybe how you're doing something when somebody comments on something. It could be that Will the chatter jumps into my chat and, you know, asks me a question and allows me to, you know, think about something differently, or he gives me a piece of advice that says you can go do this. I think the reality is good advice can come from anybody, and it's more deals with the advice that somebody is giving you and how you can kind of look into it and kind of digest it and, you know, fact check it in the real world with other people and shoot, and, you know, bounce ideas off other people. I don't think it's always necessarily trusted sources. As somebody that is obviously, you know, I'm literally not trying to do this, but it is just, since we're talking about trust, you will have parents that kids will trust, but those parents will do and give the worst advice possible because they're manipulative, or, you know, there's issues, or maybe they're, you know, abusive in some regard, right? So there are times where you might have people that are in a place of trust, but are giving you really bad and really dangerous information. So that's why I think sometimes just basing the information that you take and input into your life based off trust can be a little bit of a rocky road that you have to be very, very cautious of. So
Yeah, assess claims. What is it?
Okay.
Let's go back to Soviet era. Trust but verify.
yeah.
So before the end of this conversation, I do want to
We each have to-
because this is the thing that prompted everything. The CC BeWyrd bridge. How do both of you view that standing?
Oh yeah, he wants to chat again. You can fucking jump right back in. I'll argue with him. So I don't mind.
Yeah, my only contention was like, we were replying, we were doing it back and forth, and then you exited that conversation to quote tweet me, and I'm like, yo,
Hey,
you know you're not talking about people, you're talking about me.
No.
Say
To be-
it.
To be fair,
It
it was not a quote tweet. It was a subtweet. And the reason I subtweeted was so that if I had any followers that were going to comment, they would comment without any of the comments coming back towards you, because I wanted people to discuss the general idea, because you're not the only one that engages with it. Okay. And if you go look at my Twitter, a lot of things are just general discussions about ideas that I see, and aren't always necessarily quote tweets directed at people, because I don't always like to do that. Sometimes if I'm having a discussion with somebody, I like to keep that separate from the new discussion that I want to start with the people that engage with my tweets. That is why I did that. And then when you came in and told me, well, if you're just going to call me a disgusting person, just fucking do it, I'm going to pull that trigger probably every fucking time. Okay. First off, I don't fucking like being told what to do. Okay. That really fucking bugs me. Okay. So if somebody's like, well, just do it, then I'll fucking do it. Okay. Trust me, my parents, when they tried to get me to do my homework, I almost failed grade like 10 and 11 because they're like, you have to do your homework. You got to do this shit. And I was like, no, I don't. So I just didn't do it. And, you know, so you got to, yeah. Yeah.
I would encourage you that in public spaces, your word is your bond, and it's very quick and easy to lose respect in this space. And
Yeah, that's
people
fine.
are so quick at the manhammer, and I just I didn't have that space in my mind that you would go there, and you did,
And
and,
if-
I was like, WTF, mate? Like, really? Okay.
Yeah, and I think so, to some degree that the online spaces have become very insular, and we can't like any sort of pushback or any sort of like aggression or kind of dissent is often met sometimes quickly with a ban button. So and I get why people do it 100%. You're totally free to operate your platform with that deal. I don't mind a little bit of confrontation. I don't mind a little bit of arguing. I come from a little bit of a family that we can scream and yell at each other, and 10 minutes later we're playing fucking Scrabble. So it's just how, I guess, like you said, how you're all raised and things like that. So
Yeah, I guess to bring
Now-
it back. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I just have I have a personal question because this is what prompted this entire conversation.
okay.
CC, do you notice a pattern with this kind of event happening with a lot of people?
I sure do.
And are you happy with this kind of outcome where people that you might get good conversations out of end up blocking you?
Yeah, because I don't think we'll end up having probably good conversations. I think the fact that BeWyrd didn't block me kind of points out the fact that we could have kind of more uncomfortable confrontational conversations. Yeah, that still allow us to have like friendly and cordial relationships. I think one thing that is really toxic in this space, and I think it needs to die with like cancer radiation, needs to be the fact that just because you have like drama and disagreements and aggression and arguments doesn't mean that you can't also be cordial on the other side once that argument is done. Like I very much doubt, like, now if I see BeWyrd like commenting on Twitter after being like, oh, that CC guy, he's just a Canadian cuck or something like that, like, yeah, okay, we're gonna have an issue, right? But like moving forward, I might discuss a few things, but it won't be directed towards BeWyrd will be more of like general ideas.
Yo, man, attack my ideas. I'm sure you're fine with that. It's just
Yeah.
like once it gets personal, it's like there's no gain. The trust goes like this, and I'm sorry I goaded you into it. I just like had a different opinion of you at the time.
Yeah, that's fine.
Going back to like the main topic, we were talking a lot about like expertise, trusting and whatnot, and I think like it was a helpful example to think about like that ladder situation, or to think about like how people move away and how you can be getting advice. And from what I understand, you're like, I assess all advice as neutral, and I take it each at a time. I guess my question to you is that like my brain is a pattern recognition machine, like
as we all are. Yep.
Yeah, there's a reason stereotypes exist. Like the brain tries to chunk information into categories. So I'm surprised to hear you do otherwise. You want to expand on that a little bit? Like, is that been a struggle? Is that a conscious choice? Are there any, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how you, because for me, Freedom Convoy is in the category of Looney Tunes. Liberals are in the category of political party in power. You know what I mean? Like, and so if I meet a lib, I might expect certain things about their arguments and the quality of their arguments and this stuff. Same thing with like operation security or giving advice. If I don't know someone, it's really hard for me to figure out what their expertise is and whether I should trust their advice or not. They could just be saying words on a page. That's a lie.
So me and Zen have actually had this conversation in the past, how I'm able to like compartmentalize things that kind of come towards me and how I deal with those things. A lot of times the way I've kind of come to think of it or visualize it is like I'm standing at an assembly line. Okay, I'm standing there. There's a conveyor belt, and ideas kind of come down the conveyor belt. It's put in front of me. I deal with that box. Maybe I got to take certain things out of that box, put it back in, close the box. It goes down the assembly line. Another idea comes down, another person, another situation. I have to deal with that box. Now, there are experiences and ideas that I have dealing with other boxes down the way, right? But I have to deal with the box in front of me as it comes down. I can't always just automatically defer to the other boxes that I've dealt with.
But where are the boxes of indigenous wisdom? What happened to those boxes?
With indigenous wisdom?
Yeah.
If you want to help me deal with those boxes, I've never dealt with those boxes.
So
Can you
in this
qualify that
conveyor
statement
belt,
a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I'm kind of confused too.
in this conveyor belt analogy, the boxes are just coming down. But some boxes might have more value because, let's say, they've been forcibly excised from the conversation. Not all ideas that we receive come to us in a neutral way.
Yeah, but
Ideas about white supremacy come with the power of institutional support sometimes.
Okay, I have absolutely no fucking idea what that has to do with anything.
Let me rephrase. You gave an analogy about a conveyor belt and how you assess claims one at a time.
Yes.
I'm asking you to question where those boxes are coming from. And if we live in a country like Canada, where many of our native indigenous folk have died, I'm sorry if this bothers you or
No,
this is our history. But just take the very simple analogy. There's fewer of them, so they're inputting less into the conveyor belt. You're seeing their ideas less. You're assessing it more rarely.
Do you engage with every community at the same level to the same degree?
No, I already.
So
said
how
that.
could you
With the
possibly
Freedom
expect
Convoy,
that I'm going to be able to do that?
you
Plus,
said
once
you
again,
did.
hang on,
You said you
once
assess
again,
all claims
what-
neutrally.
Yeah, when they come to me down the fucking conveyor belt, that's why I said it's as it
And
comes
I'm
to
telling you
me.
that conveyor belt is not neutral. That conveyor belt's not neutral. You're assuming it's neutral because it just
No,
happens
because I'm going to have good
system.
ideas, bad ideas coming down that pipeline. There might be more good ideas than bad ideas, but the pipeline that is feeding me the ideas, I can't control that, right? I'm on social media. There is algorithms. I have to deal with ideas as they come to me.
I'm saying that if you ideas that
Okay,
come to you, they don't
here's
come
a
from
question.
nowhere. They come
Here's
from
a question.
people. They
What
come from people
idea-
who lived.
Okay, well then how should I better come to deal or engage with ideas? How should I better come to find those?
So in this analogy, there might be a possible blind
Well,
spot in that
yeah,
you might
okay.
have to put in a bit more effort to figure out if maybe there's a flaw in the input. Like maybe the ideas coming to you through your timeline, your Facebook, or what have you, need some purposeful action to go seek new.
How much effort do
go ahead.
you think I'm doing right now? How do you know how much effort I'm putting in to find new ideas and engage with new things?
I don't know. I think
Okay,
you
so
can
how
assess that for yourself. If you
so
think you're
how
doing
well,
good,
hang on,
then
hang on,
awesome.
hang on. Because by saying I think you need to do it more, you have like a baseline already established in your brain. Because you have no idea how much I do it, how much I engage with new ideas, how much I research, how much I read, right?
No, I don't. I
Okay.
assume as a critical Canadian, you would be exceptionally open to
Yeah.
any new interpretations of critical thought. So
Okay.
for you to be
So
arguing with me
what am I
on this is
missing though?
kind of
What is the critical thought that I'm missing?
that some ideas are purposefully scrubbed out of the conversation. and
Okay,
that we
what
should give
idea
them
what
maybe a
idea have I
different
scrubbed?
evaluation.
What idea have I scrubbed out of this evaluation or conversation?
You haven't scrubbed any
Okay,
ideas at all.
Okay, what ideas have
haven't
I
said
scrubbed
that.
out then? How do you know I'm scrubbing out ideas and not engaging with them?
I didn't say that. I'm not saying you.
But you are. You're saying I'm not. You're saying I'm not doing something. So I'm asking you how you know I'm not doing it.
Okay, let me rephrase so that we can understand one another.
Okay.
You call yourself critical Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
One way I find interesting to think about critical thought is to question, where do ideas come from?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm putting to you the very simple point that when there's fewer people of a certain perspective, let's say indigenous folk that have had hardship in our countries, that their ideas will have less cultural relevance and therefore make it to your eyes to be assessed like less often.
How do you know? How do you know that is okay? Well, are you saying that has happened to me, or are you saying things like that has happened to me?
I'm saying in terms of math, when there are fewer people, there are fewer ideas
Okay.
generated by those people.
How do you know
You
that
can
you're
argue
not
with me all
doing
you
that?
want.
Hang on. How do you contradict that then? Because it's going to be the same for you.
Sure.
Yeah. How do you,
Absolutely. I read the summary of the Truth and Reconciliation support.
okay, as have I. We've gone through it on. Yeah, we've gone through it on stream,
Yeah.
the interactive map and everything. Okay.
Right. So that's a great example of how you have like tried to change the conveyor belt. So
I haven't
don't
changed the
think
conveyor belt. No. The conveyor
Or the
belt's still the
input,
same
the
because
input.
ideas are being fed down to me, right? That the analogy isn't where is the conveyor belt being fed from. The analogy is ideas arrive to me and I deal with them as they arrive to me.
You're right. You haven't done anything to like the people who wrote the summary would be the ones tinkering with the conveyor belt. You're just someone receiving the information. So thanks for going on that detour for me. I'm just
Well, that's a
trying to
very
explore-
important. Hang on, that's a very important detour because you are just as subjective to everybody at the end of your conveyor belt that is feeding you ideas as I am. So I'm asking you how you counteract that, and you're like, "Well, I go read these things." So do I. Okay, so what's something else?
Awesome.
What's
So we
something
agree.
else?
I'm confused why you're taking an antagonistic tone on something we agree on.
Well, because you're telling me I'm not. Well, it's because you're telling me I'm not
I'm
doing
not.
something. You are. You are. Yes.
I raised the question. I'm like, hey, have you considered this aspect? And you're like, yeah, I totally have. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
Okay.
Cool. Awesome.
Well, hang on. What other ways? Because of just reading, because we both do that. So I'm not
Talking to
entirely.
people-
I'm not.
talking to people who are different than you.
Yep, I do that.
Learning new.
Yep.
I'm not.
But I don't. So sorry. My
I'm
issue
not
is I.
questioning you.
No,
I'm
no,
not
but
questioning you.
I don't
It's
understand what
just
the
I'm
point
not.
was. I don't understand what the point was. Why even bring it up?
Because I wanted to further the conversation around critical analysis.
Well, the way to do that would have been a more of curiosity thing. You could have asked me, "Oh, what do you do to inform yourself on different ideas that might not be fed to you by algorithms?" Right? That would have been the curiosity thing, right? Because then instead of stating maybe positions or making it sound like I don't do things, which it kind of did make it sound like that, you could have asked me what the
Start
things
that
I
information.
what things that I do or engage in to challenge the ideas that are fed to me through algorithms and stuff like that. And then I would refer you back to the way that I don't 100% trust the sources that are always fed to me, whether they're family, friends, or online. And I always try to do due diligence to the best of my fucking ability to challenge the ideas that are being presented before me.
Okay, I could have done better. I don't know why you're lecturing me on this.
Well, you just tried to lecture me on trying to challenge my abilities. I think it's only fair that I return the lecture.
I'm sorry. When I say I'm raising a critical question, that doesn't sound like a lecture. It sounds
Yeah,
like
no, it absolutely was a lecture. Yes, you were trying to lecture on me on ways that I should seek to challenge my ideas without knowing how I actually go about that. That is what you did. You can pretend it's not, but that's fine.
The analogy you gave made me have a question whether there was a flaw in the analogy. And I was
No,
just like,
but
let's push
you
this
didn't have a
forward. Let's
question.
see
You
if
didn't ask. No. You didn't ask how I was receiving the boxes on my conveyor belt. You kind of assumed that I was
sorry.
only receiving
I'm
it.
so sorry I didn't ask you the curious way.
Why-
I'm sorry.
why is this
What is this?
Nothing.
Why are
Go
you
ahead.
upset?
Okay,
I'm not.
upset?
Really
No.
quick.
You mad?
There
You
are
mad?
two
You mad?
statements that are true at the
Yeah,
same
exactly.
time. I will say, BeWyrd, that your original question did come off a little bit antagonistic when I first heard it.
Sure.
So I
Thanks for
think
clarifying that. Agree with that.
as when it came on, you tried to change that antagonistic tone, and I don't think CC fully recognized that and continued with the original tone. Just to make sure, I do understand where CC is coming from with the antagonism, but I think the question is valid to come from initially.
It is a valid question, but he didn't frame it in a way the question, but that's fine.
Okay.
And then I think he tried to reframe it, and that didn't work too well, essentially.
Well, he tried to reframe it in like a form
either
of a lecture
way-
and not a question bank, but that's okay. Go ahead.
It is. You had to mention that you had to go soon. CC,
Yeah,
so
I
I
should
wanna
be.
make sure that
Okay. Can
we're
we
not,
finish
I
off?
have many times carried you over conversation.
True.
Far
Yeah,
longer than it should have
we've had
lasted.
some lengthy conversations. How long is this one ran now? Holy shit, 2.5 hours.
So, it seemed like there was a little bit of a sentiment that we didn't address what we originally came here to talk about. If you guys want to have another conversation, maybe Ice Beans and I can take turns moderating, and we can each have a different conversation. Whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah, maybe.
I thought this was pretty productive, and I'm happy with the direction that it went, even if it wasn't the initial idea of where it went from. And just to make sure, since we are both on,
Discourse.
since everyone is on each other's channels, just make sure everyone gets the chance to shout themselves out, because we didn't do that at the beginning.
Oh, for sure.
Take the lead.
Be
CC.
weird. Okay. I'll let you see then. What is
Oh.
your channel information, Mr.
My name is Critical Canadian. You can find me on most social media platforms, particularly twitch.tv/Critical Canadian.
All right, and be
I
weird.
do stuff.
Hey everybody, you can find me on Twitch, Twitter, the Tactic, the Facebook. I run a poetry slam first Saturday of every month in the city. You can find me for news and politics in the morning, and music and poetry and cooking and all sorts of weird stuff. So come on, hang out, lovely community, and we hang out most mornings.
Based.
All right.